And then we'll do the pledge and then recess.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Simsbury Board of Selectmen for September 23rd, and with that, we will stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we do have to ask, I'm gonna ask for a motion to take a 5-minute recess. We have someone that wants to join by Zoom, and we are not set up for that at this point.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I'm gonna set my timer so we can pretend some.
You just declare it back in session.
Okay, I'm gonna declare that we're back in session, that the 5-minute recess is over. The first thing we have on our agenda tonight is a public hearing on the proposed amendments to Town Code Chapter 141. Somebody's ringing here.
Sorry.
Chapter 141, Article 8, tax credit for elderly and totally disabled homeowners. So I'm gonna ask for a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed amendments to Town Code Chapter 141, Article 8, tax credit for elderly and totally disabled homeowners.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was quick. Okay, so the public hearing is opened, and I have one person signed up for the public hearing, and that is Ed LaMontagne.
Good evening, Ed LaMontagne, Chairman, Simsbury Aging Disability Commission. So the Simsbury Aging Disability Commission is supportive of the proposed amendments to Town Code Chapter 141, Article 8, tax credits for elderly and totally disabled homeowners. The increases in the proposed credit amounts for both married and individual qualifying income make sense with the increased inflationary cost for the elderly and totally disabled. The Commission appreciates the efforts made by this board to provide assistance to both elderly and totally disabled citizens. The Commission looks forward to working with the board as we undertake important and essential initiatives, one of which you're going to hear about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, I like that
Short
one.
and sweet.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next item, so I gotta move to close the public hearing on the proposed amendments. Oh, are you,
I signed on the wrong sheet, I think. I'm on the outside one. I didn't know there was two.
no, are you wanna speak on the hearing?
On the hearing,
Okay, sure. Just state your name and address.
I came a little more prepared.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes.
Fabio Colmer, 5 Clifton Drive. I do not believe in this change for the following reasons. Exempting any group of people from paying their fair share of taxes is not fair to the other groups that do not qualify, in this case simply based on age. At the last meeting, it was determined horses are not exempt due to the fact that this would hurt the income of the town by $2,000. This is the exact same thing, except not for horses, it is for the aging and disabled. If any one person receives the max $2,000 benefit, it is the same impact as all horse owners combined. That were previously not exempted. Lastly, a Roth IRA allows an individual to make contributions with post-tax money. If that same person invests wisely, at age 59 and a half, they may start drawing from it without impact on their Social Security income. Similarly, that same individual who could be financially well off could apply for the credit and have an impact on the town budget as large as all law-abiding horse owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have, now I'm back to closing the motion. I get a motion to.
Motion to close the hearing. Thank you.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is closed. Yeah,
You make the motion to change J.
oh, do it now, you want me to do that now?
If you,
Okay. Just throwing, so I'd like to ask for a motion to move item J up to the top of the selectmen action and make that item A, and then number all the rest of the items down the list, which I'm not gonna do out loud, cause Franklin can do that.
So moved, are we making a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we are at the public audience portion of the agenda, and I have 4 people here. And the first person is Joan Coe, and you will have 5 minutes exactly to speak. Oh,
It'd be Susan.
oh, sorry, so
She
Joan,
messaged-
Susan was
Joan
here.
go, she's already.
Okay.
Susan, cause she emailed us before.
Just let Joan go, she's already.
She's already up there.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, Joan.
Okay, Susan.
I don't mind, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, okay, I don't care either. You guys
Joan
shout
is
out for
making a
us.
friendly amendment and allowing Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Sorry, I planned to join on Zoom and I wasn't sure if I was getting the link, so I zipped over here and
Thank you for coming.
yes. So I'm here tonight to announce our back by popular demand line dancing at the Simsbury Grange, October 11th, with Mary Root. Between 6 and 7, we have free cornbread and chili. And then at 7 o'clock is the dancing, and it's co-sponsored with the Simsbury Library. I wasn't at the last one, but I know some people who are here tonight were. You can attest that it was a good time. So we have this event and probably one more event before the end of the year that I'll update you another time. I also wanna say that if you did not get your perfect barrel green bungee or a bear whistle, I have them in a container near the steps of the Grange, so you can stop and get those for free. And then the last thing I wanted to mention tonight, so if you've, usually I come here about Grangey events, but I did wanna make a couple of comments about the open space issue that we have been discussing. I wanna thank the board for getting an opinion from the town attorney. The reason why the issue was brought up about 824 being binding is because it is in Connecticut case law that there are 2 situations where a planning commission decision is binding. One is municipal improvement, the other one is subdivisions. So I'm not sure why this doesn't apply, but I accept the town attorney's ruling and thank you for getting that. The other thing that I wanna mention is the reason why we're following 21-8 is not because this land is on the town open space inventory. It's because it's the foundational, that inventory is built exactly on the foundational land designations, 21 land designations for the town. That's why we're following it, because it's the law. And I also wanna say that I know that the title of the inventory is something about 2015, a working draft, work in progress. And there may be a perception that open space, we're quiet people, we kind of do what we're doing. We haven't been telling everyone what we've been doing, but we've been doing a lot of work for the last 9 years, trying to do the best we can to take care of the land and water that we have here in our town. And that includes policies for our forests, for our grasslands, for mowing policies, reducing mowing, for farmer-friendly agriculture policies to protect our farmland and our clean water. And we have things in progress, considering Schultz Park as an arboretum, light pollution issues, protection for Trap Rock Ridges, and in general, trying to save the town money and do the right thing. So, I just wanna say, as one of the members of Open Space, we have members with significant expertise that are volunteering their time and really surveying widely. So we bring the very best of the science and practice to the town, and we will continue to do that. And it will always be a work in progress and a working draft, because these are living things. And you can't take a piece of paper and make a decision about a living thing. It's like a doctor doing surgery without seeing the patient. We would always ground truth what we're gonna do with our land and water. Because if you don't check, you don't know what's there. So those are the things I wanted to say, and I know there may be a presentation by the Sustainability Committee tonight, but I wanna just say that our land and water is the absolute foundation of our sustainability. And I take that responsibility seriously, and I thank you for paying attention.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks for coming in person.
What was the date of the dance one in
October 11th,
October?
yep, cowboy boots are optional.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. The next person that we have is Joan, and thank you for waiting and allowing Susan to go.
Joan Coe, 26 Whitcomb Drive. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis has used her position to try to block the nomination of a longtime library employee now retired, for position on the library board. Susan Ray has the institutional knowledge of the library activities after working for decades at the library and would be an asset to the library board. Public audience is interrupted when the narrative is inconsistent with Wendy Mactusis's values, while people with political clout are embraced. The town electors voted for first selectman Wendy Mactusis to be the voice of the people, not to have her own agenda and values displayed by her conduct at the Board of Selectmen meetings through intimidation. It should be noted that I have not had any discussions with members of the board after my comments of public audience discussing a follow-up on my concerns. The Board of Selectmen is silent on all the violations of the public's First Amendment rights during public audience. First Selectman Wendy Mactusis retains a salary of $10,000 to listen to the public, not to create a hostile environment. The recent art display of a political theme in the library was questioned by Wendy Mactusis as creating a hostile work environment, demanding the artist remove the comments associated with the art. This is a violation of the artist's first right of free expression. It is really concerning when Town Manager Mark Nelson refuses to comply with a lawsuit that clearly states the town must place the contents of a negotiated settlement referencing public audience on the wall for all to see at the main meeting room. Simsbury should have a town manager that complies with the rule of law. Town Manager Mark Nelson is not a dictator deciding what laws to follow and what to ignore, but a manager of the town to comply with the rules and regulations of the town and the state. Discussions that the decisions that he makes can affect the character of Simsbury and could lead the town into continual legal chaos. Recently, the Board of Selectmen voted for the town to approve a lease with Flamic Farm Products to take over the town farm in Walcott Road. It appears Town Attorney DiCrescenzo approved the lease, stating that the lease complied with the Eno Trust since they stated that the Flamic Farm Products will give the poor some vegetables in exchange for taking over the farm as a business, a total disregard of the Eno deed. If Bob DiCrescenzo read the deed, he would not have allowed the transfer of the use of Flamic Farm Products and Chris Latz. The Eno deed is registered with the town of Simsbury Land Records, Volume 52. It states, quote, I hereby quit claim to the town of Simsbury to be used for the occupation, maintenance, and support of the town poor of said town for no other purpose whatsoever, and for only so long as it shall be so occupied and used, and only as so long as the town shall care for and support its poor on said farm without contracting them out to any person or persons for their care and maintenance, shall such farm belong to the town, end quote. The Board of Selectmen voted on the lease on the misguided information of Town Attorney DiCrescenzo and should rescind the lease until the town attorney gives them accurate guidance for the use of the town farm. According to town records, Steve Antonio owns several properties on Walcott Road and some contiguous with the town farm property. At the May 13, 2024 meeting of the Board of Selectmen, the vote to approve the lease from the community farm to Flamic Farm Earth Products, Deputy First Selectman Steve Antonio did not recuse himself from the vote, which appears to be a conflict of interest. At the September 9, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting, I stated, quote, recently a Bridgeport police chief was denied the ability to draw from his pension while serving as chief in the same department in violation of federal law, end quote. An October 22nd amendment to the state statute which allowed the chief to collect the pension despite his having returned to lead the force was found to violate federal law. Does this legal decision apply to Chief Bolter, where he has retired and while receiving his salary is allowed to draw his pension? Is this another disregard of the rule of law? Has the board reviewed my comments and taken any action on rescinding the approval of Chief of Police Nick Bolter withdrawing from his pension while with continuing his employment with the town? Is this another violation of law that is ignored by our governing body? All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury Cat and Twitter at Joan Co. for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Very
I got
nice
there
timing
before the
there.
ding dong.
The next person I have on the list is Diane Nash.
The Board of Selectmen agenda again, another packed agenda. And impossible for you to study everything and in the time allowed. So I was even feeling somewhat guilty about taking my 5 minutes. But the 5 minutes that you give the people of the audience are the most important thing on your agenda. And so I'm here tonight, first to thank you, all of you who serve without salary.
I get a little
You do so because you listen, you take things into account. You don't just do it here, you do it at home, you do it on your own time that we don't even see and react to. And sometimes you even contradict each other and your town manager, and believe it or not, you even contradict some of your audience. So I urge you to continue to do what you're doing and thank you for what you do. On the sale of the open space on the parcel on Firetown and Owensboro, by a workaround, now using the overlay of the ordinance that allows and getting finally a response from our town attorney to say this is not a legal binding despite what the state ordinance says. But it had a lot of people saying, why should I even go to the public hearing? The state statute says the planning commission made the decision for us. So I thank you for getting the ruling from the town attorney. I don't know how it works, but that's good enough. And now at least your voters feel that they are going to be heard. Still, there are other concerns that exist, including, did you favor the sale? Because that's how the referral went to planning. Can you possibly get an unbiased opinion now from the committees? Because their boss says, I favor this referral. So are you gonna get an unbiased opinion? Problematic also is something Susan mentioned, is the wording of the request sent to the committees. It should read, these properties are on the official town list, and they and the ordinance were reviewed and accepted by a prior Board of Selectmen. And if this is a test case, as it was supposedly, are we testing the way we price the properties as well as the procedures that we're gonna be using? It makes far more sense to clarify what we're doing and start over if your desire to do so is in the future. So I ask again tonight that you change course and the motion to go forward be reversed. And I am gonna share and read an anecdote that I think is appropriate. A captain notices a light in the distance on a collision course with his ship. He turns on his signal lamp and says, change your course 10 degrees west. The light signals back, change yours 10 degrees east. The captain gets a little annoyed and he signals, "I'm a US Navy captain. You must change your course, sir." The light signals back, "I'm a seaman first class, but you must change your course, sir." Now the captain's mad. He signals, "I'm an aircraft carrier, and I'm not changing my course." The light signals back a final message, "I'm a lighthouse to your goal."
Thank you. The next person I have is Helen Peterson. You're up, Helen.
Thank you. Oh, let me put this down. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Everyone. And as before, I speak to you as an individual, even though I'm a member of the Open Space Committee. At previous Board of Selectmen meetings on August 12th and 9th and September 9th, I addressed the board with my concerns regarding the proposed sale of town-owned parcel at the northwest corner of Friartown Road and Owensbrook Boulevard. In reviewing the documents, I have learned that the proposal had also appeared previously on your July 8th agenda in executive session. To date, you have discussed this matter in executive session 3 times since July 8th. So to reiterate, my concerns are and have always been to question the rationale and the process taken by you to dispose of this parcel. In review, I question that the proposal was initiated by town staff, not you. Then their submissions guided you to pursue CGS 824 for processing the proposal. Why did it take public comment to alert the Board of Selectmen that the Board of Selectmen have in place already by previous board action Ordinance 21-8, our community's long recognized process? On August 27th, as your referral appeared on the Planning Commission's agenda, the commissioners were not properly informed by staff of Ordinance 21-8. Again, the community's recognized process for such matters. As the planning agendas do not provide public audience, I and others of the public attended, appropriately sent and/or presented letters prior to their meeting to inform the commissioners regarding Ordinance 21-8 and other matters and other information. Now, why were the planning commissioners instructed to ignore the public comments, not discuss them in their deliberations? Further, subsequently, at the September 4th regular meeting of the Open Space Committee, Agenda Item 3 gave opportunity to attending Town Manager Nelson. He requesting to discuss the proposal with us, seemingly to affirm staff's position in their chosen CGS 824 referral process. However, the Open Space Committee had the opportunity to outline the databases and the reasons for the process of Ordinance 21-8. Again, earlier tonight at your 5:30 special meeting, you chose to discuss this matter, item A, titled Sale or Purchase of Real Property, again in executive session, making it the 4th time since July 8th. Respectfully, in the spirit of open government and the process, as I have carefully studied the titles of your agenda items for executive session, it appears to me that you are attempting to learn something about the sale and or disposal of public land. But these titles do not suggest that you are discussing any specific details of a confidential nature that would make it necessary or legally justifiable
to have an executive session. Again, I respectfully request that such valuable discussions be discussed in public discourse so that I and all the public can be edified at the same time, and together we can achieve the best outcome for the community. I sincerely thank you for your service and for the opportunity to comment again. Thank you.
Thank you. I do wanna just acknowledge, I'm not sure if I can legally do this, but the since this land that we've been talking about, this open space parcel has been on public conversation, it is not being discussed in executive session.
But the titles of the those agenda
correct.
items suggest so.
It just is a general,
Well, excuse me, as I said in my comments, the titles suggested to me after I studied all of them that you were discussing in general or something just to edify yourselves, and I thought that's a laudable opportunity. I just want to
Thank
be, let's say, thinking that we could be included in that process so that we can be on the same page
okay, thank you.
and we can be edifying everyone and have the best outcome for the community.
Thank you, Helen. I have Jane McAlpine. That might have been, that's wrong. Jane
Close.
McAlpine.
We'll find out.
That's what I was gonna say. Jane, please pronounce your name for me.
I will. Jane McAlpine.
Oh, that was so easy.
MC Alpine like the mountain,
Okay.
1 Tower Drive. And I'm the recently appointed executive director of the Simsbury Historical Society, so I wanted you to be able to put a face to the name. And founded in 1911, the Historical Society is nonprofit organization and it depends on volunteers to do everything that it does, from grounds and building to engagements like we had this weekend, Scarecrow Day. I don't know if anybody went by, but it was a fun time for not only members of our community, but from surrounding communities. So in the spirit of volunteerism, this board is invited to our annual volunteer appreciation picnic this Sunday from 12 to 2. We hope you can stop by and just, talk about your favorite apple pie recipe, your favorite places to hike, favorite sports team, whatever, say hello to the board members and meet some of the many volunteers that keep our organization going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. Okay. Anyone else here for public audience? Okay. Are you in the room, Lori? Come in the room.
I'm in the room.
Okay, then you're up for public audience. I guess there's no seat, so I can forgive you for
Well, I
that.
had a seat, but I had to step out for a second.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Lori Boyko from 15 Oakhurst Road. Equality is a founding principle of this great country of ours. Equal opportunities, equal representation, equal rules. As such, I just want to point out that it's disappointing that there was a big holdup on Susan Ray being appointed to the library board out of concern for possible conflict. Yet on June 10th, when I raised the very same concern about Selectman Antonio, no disrespect meant to either party, just being used as examples, he was being appointed as liaison to Simsbury Main Street Partnership. My question was dismissed. This is not about politics or parties or even who the people are. I know them both, I like them both, and I respect them both. It is about equal treatment to all. So if one person should not be appointed because there might be a conflict, then that should hold for everybody that's being considered. Beyond that, there's so much on this agenda that could be raised. But most notably, I have a very real concern about the Performing Arts Center agreement. First and foremost, creating a 15-year agreement is excessive and irresponsible. It binds the town to a longer agreement than any commercial lease I'm familiar with. I can't imagine signing a commercial lease agreement for 15 years that doesn't go in 5-year steps. To do so for only $2,500 a year until 2028, and then $7,500 a year with 3% increases thereafter. I'm not sure where the 3% came from, but my taxes averaged over the last 5 years a 7.4% a year increase. The agreement states that the PAC improves quality of life and promotes local economic activity. I would point out that many local business owners have gone on record lamenting loss of business during events and loss of parking for their patrons. Even the dog park and playground are noted in the agreement as closed during some events. Whether or not the PAC improves the quality of life depends on whose quality of life, whether they can even afford to attend events at the PAC after paying taxes in town. The PAC is an IRS 501c3 nonprofit, meaning they are exempt from income tax on their revenue. They have generated a net profit every year for the last 10 years based on their tax returns, with the exception of 2018 when they had an extra $86,000 expense for salary and other compensation, and of course in 2021 as a result of COVID. Otherwise, they have steadily grown their assets from $58,000 to $387,000 at the end of 2022. I couldn't find their 2023 tax return. Not that it's not filed, it just wasn't available on the site. It seems they ought to be able to contribute more than a paltry $2,500 to $7,500 a year while shifting financial obligations to hardworking taxpayers. While the PAC has primary exclusive use of the property for very little compensation, we, the town, pay for all repair and replacement of the roof, structural elements, exterior band shell, windows, walls, foundations, heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, landscape, lawn mowing, irrigation system, parking lot, and equipment. We bear the costs, they reap the benefits. This agreement needs to be revisited and revised to a much more equitable agreement. The decisions of this board need to reflect including not just the wealthy and elite special interest groups, with exceptions for needy, while unduly financially burdening everyone else. You represent all of us, not just some of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here for public audience? Going. Okay, Colin. Okay. We do have two presentations today. I was just gonna ask, is anybody freezing in here, or is it just me? Freezing. Is there somebody we could have fix that for us while they're,
Are you freezing?
I'm so cold.
Does it on his
You're a public works
iPad.
director.
Right.
Okay, so I do wanna, we have two presentations tonight. We do wanna ask that the presenters try to limit their presentation to 15 minutes each, cause that's the normal. Did anyone tell you that before you signed up?
Thought I had 10.
Oh. Great.
My mistake.
Yeah, 15 minutes, so I saw a lot of slides, I went through a lot of slides, so we could hit the highlights here. But the first presentation we have is for the Age Friendly Community Initiative. We have Ed LaMontagne, which I know I pronounced your name wrong before, and Jan Beatty from the committee tonight to walk us through what's been happening.
So in August of 2019, during my first tenure as chairman of Aging Disability Commission, one of our action items, we decided to make an application for the town of Simsbury to become an AARP, age-friendly community. So to that end, the town of Simsbury became the 329th community in the country and only the 4th in Connecticut to sign on to the multi-year process. So since that time, minus the COVID years, the Age Friendly Community Subcommittee, led by Jan, has made enormous gains in the application process. So she is now going to do a slideshow to tell us where we've gone. Thank you.
Go back. There we go. Thank you. Do you
I'm
wanna?
gonna get out of your way. I don't know about you, but I'm
Thank you,
sweating.
Ed. Yeah. Thanks, Ed. I'm also grateful to all of our other subcommittee meeting members we have Mike Jennings, Kate Robbins, Cheryl Cook, and Libby Easton May. And I'm also very grateful to the senior center staff and to the board for your time. Special shout out to Diana, who has been acquainted with this project for a while. And especially to a previous selectman, who is Amber Abul, who for her significant contributions to our subcommittee. So did you folks know that according to the US Census, in 6 years, 1 in 5 people will be 65 and over? That's in 6 years' time. In 10 years, they will outnumber children age 17 and under. Is Simsbury ready? So what makes a community livable? This is what we're looking at, is an age-friendly community for all ages. So let me read you what AARP's definition of a livable community is. It's safe and secure with affordable and appropriate housing and transportation options, offers supportive community features and services. These resources enhance personal independence, allow residents to age in place, and foster their engagement in the community's civic, economic, and social life. So what you see here is a graphic that represents the 8 domains of livability. The top 3 are all about the built community, housing, transportation, and outdoor spaces and buildings. And the 5 around the bottom and the leading up to the top represent the social community. Health services, social participation, respect and social inclusion, communication, and civic engagement. So I'll come back to this graphic a little later to show you how AARP's current assessment of the town's livability works, but first I want to show you the steps. So as Ed said, we entered the network in 2019. We are now the 8th community in Connecticut to be part of the AARP age-friendly community process. There are over 800 communities nationwide who participate in this age-friendly initiative. There are 4 steps in this process. We've completed numbers 1 and 2, and we are now in step 3. We are developing a 3-year action plan to address the findings that have come as a result of our surveys and focus groups and interviews with stakeholders. And we hope to submit our 3-year action plan by the end of this year to AARP. Then we'll be in step 4, which is implementing and tracking our progress, which is, as you can see, 3 years worth. So next, I will quickly recap the survey that we did in 2022. It was some of you may know this, so forgive me if I'm repeating things that you know. But there was a 36-question survey that went out to a number of folks. We got 674 responses. And that is slightly more than 11% of Simsbury's 65-plus population. About only 4% of them were the 54 to 65-year-old population. Next. I'm going fast. If you have any questions, please do ask. The survey demographics, we had 67% from Simsbury, 15% Weetog, 11% West Simsbury, and 6% Terriffill. That was all, this was an anonymous survey, so these were captured by zip codes. 68% have lived in town more than 20 years. 72% were female, 71% were 65 years old or older, and 68% were retired. 31% live alone. So what they said was needed was based on a list that was provided by that AARP model survey. So we had 22% of them said that sidewalks and trails need to be accessible and in good condition. 21% of those surveyed said they needed more affordable housing. 20% said they need separate pathways for bicycles and pedestrians. 18% said they wanted well-maintained public buildings such as our library, senior center, and town hall. And 16% said they wanted additional transportation options. Next. So we got open-ended answers too to what is working, and we also got some open-ended answers for what isn't working. So what's not working, obviously everybody loves the town, they love the open space, they love, what they don't like is transportation, taxes, affordability, which came up all the time, single level housing, development, traffic, senior center facilities, and the lack of diversity, inclusivity. So, post-survey assessments, what are we wanted to verify the survey responses and address some of those gaps that we noticed. Specifically, age, I was concerned, as were many of our committee members, that we didn't reach those who were 45 to 64. We got a lot of 65 plus, but we didn't get a whole lot of the younger seniors. So we wanted to address them. We wanted to address some gaps we noticed in location. And we wanted to include folks that we hadn't reached, like homebound residents. So you'll see what we did to broaden that demographic reach. We identified 15 stakeholders in town, and we asked them what was working and what isn't working through just interviews with them. We also sent surveys to a wellness fair. We included them in their bags from the library, books to the door, to your door. And we also included surveys in Meals on Wheels. What that told us was we were basically not much different from what you saw. So we decided again to go through and get some professional help and do some focus groups in April. And we engaged the help of social scientist Dr. Ellis Dillon from the Center on Aging at UConn Health. And she is also a resident of Simsbury, which was wonderful. So we then got 20 participants at 3 different locations, McLean, the library, and in Terriffill. And 7 of those participants were under 65. And I thought that was important because 31% of Simsbury is in that age group of 45 to 64. So what's working? Again, pretty much what our focus group folks said mimicked what was in the survey. Safety works very well here. Simsbury Farms, open space. This is a family town and has a small town feel with lots to offer. The PAC, the library, and the schools, of course, were what were called out. Next. So what is needed? In the focus group, what came out, not surprisingly, were these 4 domains that were identified with housing being predominant. As one of our focus group participants said, when our child moves out, there's nothing other than a condo in Simsbury for our next step. Our next house will be without stairs. And that was a 47-year-old from West Simsbury. Another mentioned condos often limit pets, so that was a concern. Several mentioned affordability and much needed tax relief. Transportation was second most often mentioned. And by the way, this was also from the surveys that we did with our stakeholders. Very consistent. Transportation was second most often mentioned, with options being limited and expensive. So one of our focus group persons said, quote, should be a town trolley or electric bus. She was 55. Another suggested dedicate some tax relief to buses for seniors. So there were lots of interesting options. Some people remembered a trolley that went around a long time ago in town. Okay. Must have been a long time ago. Now, and one of the other things, social participation. That got highlighted quite a bit. Yesterday we had part of the Sweet Connections that, I don't know if anybody went to that at the library yesterday. It was part of the Social Connections project. And thanks to Deb Bivens and For All Ages, the Aging and Disability Commission, the library and the senior center got together with grassroots ice cream. And it was a big hit. We had more than 50 participants. They got to try a combo of 2 ice creams and come up with a name for it. So Bear Bits will be coming to grassroots very soon. And many couldn't say enough about multi-generational sharing of spaces. Now I'm going back to our focus group. Many people want that. Multi-generational sharing of spaces is what came up a lot. As one focus group participant said, quote, "If I had a magic wand, I would smush the senior center onto the library so that all ages would participate," unquote. So where are we now? Next. So we are in step 3, our 3-year action plan. We have reconfirmed the town's commitment with a letter from town manager Mark Nelson. Thank you, Mark. And we are continuing to work with committed stakeholders in town. We continue to identify those folks. We're engaging with town initiatives, including these housing pact. And we are researching other cities' age-friendly plans. So I wanted to show you one that we found in their bank of, AARP has a bank of over 300 action plans that we have free access to. And one came up in Florida that has been adopted in Connecticut. And I wanted, go back, go ahead. This solar table is now, that was mentioned at a town in Florida as a means of social access for people, and it's also sustainable. It's a solar table. This is now being set up at Central Connecticut. And it has different chargers. It has, I think, 6 outlets, 12 USB ports, wireless charging stations, and it's all done solarly. So this would be a wonderful way of encouraging social communication outside. So that's one of the things we'd like to do. I promised I'd go back to this graphic. As you'll notice, I put a couple of numbers in there. Simsbury's average across all 8 domains per AARP is only 54. Which you might think is not so great, but the highest that they offer is 74. And as you'll notice up there, they've started switching around some of these categories, so they don't match exactly right. But you'll notice that housing only gets 28. That's why, one of the reasons Simsbury gets a very low number on AARP's livability. So we wanna work toward that. Next and last. So where are we going from, what does this mean? That might be one of the questions that you've been thinking about. Why do we want to be an age-friendly designation? First of all, the businesses can now use that logo, which you see right there, to show that they are, because we have entered this network, we are an age-friendly community, and they can start using that logo now. This is totally free. We pay nothing to AARP for being part of this. We have access to their grants. Back in 2022, we were actually awarded a $5,000 AARP Livable Communities Support Program grant for the Memory Cafe that is at the library. And one of the other reasons we want to do this is we'd really like to support the Aging and Disability Commission especially would like to support the desire of the many residents who want to stay here. So, thank you. Any questions?
Well, first of all, I was just gonna say, that was a great presentation. You would get an A, cause I thought you did a great job on the slides and the way you did it. I would turn it over, Heather has a question, and then I was gonna see if Diana had comments after too as a past president, not president, chair? Heather?
Thank you for that, that was
Sure.
a great presentation. My question is, have you looked at other communities that have a high rating on AARP that are similar to us, and are there some areas that you think are more low hanging fruit that we could do and start to implement?
Yes, the answer is yes, and we've been looking a lot at Glastonbury. Glastonbury is one in the network and they have done a lot. We are looking very carefully at our POCD and looking to make sure that we are working within that, obviously. But we are looking at other, that's why it's wonderful that AARP they have open forums. They have every month, they have an open forum where everyone around the country can get together to talk about different issues. We can access all of their action plans, we can access anything we want, pretty much. So yes, we are looking at all of those things, so thank you, Heather.
Diana, do you wanna add some comments?
Well, I'm first of all, I just wanna say how proud I am of the work that the commission continues to do for the public. So you all know, I was in between Ed's first and now second tenure. I was the chair in between, stepped down when I was elected as Board of Selectmen, but now I'm the liaison still. I was the chair and when we did the surveys and really got that off the ground coming out of COVID. And we knew going into it, just so people know, it is a multi-year, it's supposed to be a multi-year process. So we're not behind in any way, shape or form, but really looking at the domains of livability and what they only enhance what we can offer our residents here in Simsbury. Not only because every person here who's living is aging. We, whether you're at the 54 or 65 mark, you will be there eventually, knock wood. So this ultimately has a benefit to everybody in town. Not only do we have the ability to have grant money, but it certainly helps in our livability and our bond ratings and what we offer as a town for economic development. And it touches every single piece of the town. So I applaud the work that continues. It's a lot of work and a very small group doing this Herculean task. So I applaud the efforts and continue to support it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane.
Anybody else have comments or questions? I just had a couple comments. And interesting, some of the things in the slides, the housing needs, single homes, one floor living. We are looking at that. The Housing Policy Advisory Commission is exploring that as potential, possibilities, right? So it is on that radar there. I did like tax relief is on the radar tonight, so that is there. The trails and walking, we are putting a lot of money and emphasis on our trails throughout town, so I think we are doing a lot of these things. The one thing that I don't know more about and I'm interested in is the transportation, which seems to be a need. And all I know about is dial-a-ride, but I don't know that doesn't sound like that fits the bill. And I do know that our past first selectman did explore transportation options. Eric Wellman had brought that up and did some investigation, but that didn't pan out for reasons I'm not sure of. But just curious as to what kind of options there are for us in that sphere, and maybe that's something you guys can.
That's something that we are looking at because it's very difficult. That's basically what we found. Kate Robbins has done a great job looking at all of our different transportation options, and they're expensive.
Yeah.
We have some, but they're expensive. And basically dial-a-ride, as probably many people know, doesn't work on the weekends after certain times. They don't go into other towns. And it becomes expensive for anybody who doesn't have a doctor's appointment. If you have people who are coming with you, that becomes expensive. So yeah, there needs to be something.
Okay, that's good to know.
And again, the people who were complaining are the 47 and 55-year-old folks who are saying, how am I gonna, it's not a walkable town, we have to drive everywhere. What happens if I can't drive? And that came up all the time, along with again, I think the 47-year-old was looking at her kids who wanted places to be. So that became the multi-generational thing too. It's some part of these domains hits, I think, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Transportation has been an issue for seniors as well as people with disabilities.
Right.
True,
So
it's true.
Thank you.
Okay, now we had a little sustainability in the age friendly. Right, so I'd like to ask Mark Scully to come up with a presentation on the sustainability committee and an update to the board. And again, 10 minutes for you. Mark, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. My name is Mark Scully. I'm chair of the Sustainability Committee in town, and we're really excited to be here tonight to really restart a conversation about our sustainability plan. And before I do that, I'd like to introduce the committee. So if we can go to the next slide. The committee itself, our role really is to advise the town on policy issues, on any issues that impact sustainability. As you know, probably the majority of topics that come before you have a sustainability component like the one we just heard. We've been pleased and I'd say quite honored at times when the board or other groups have said, what do you think about this? I know a big example was the Tobacco Valley Solar years back. We were consulted on, what did we think? So we welcome that role. The members, we have 4 at-large committee members, Baird Faithful and Jamie Luchik are both here tonight. I'm the chair and Michael Schulitz. We have several ex officio members, Holly Bem from Planning, Joe Daly, Recycling, Lydia Tadone, Board of Ed, and then we have 2 vacant slots from the Economic Development Commission and Culture, Parks and Rec. We view the team as broader than just these members, and we regularly have other people attending and volunteering, including some who are here tonight. Shout out to our terrific liaison to the board, Kevin Beal. Kevin comes to all the meetings, he stays and he makes sure that we're plugged in town, so thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
We get excellent support from Public Works, our staff support, Tom Roy is here, there he is in the front somewhere, and his team. And we meet the first Thursday of every month at 6:30. We are the successor to we contain the former Clean Energy Task Force. And I wanna make sure you know about our terrific sustainability fair. For several years, we had sort of glommed on to Simsbury Celebrates or what was it? No, not Simsbury Celebrates. Spectacular. Before that, it was September Fest, September Feast, but we decided this year to do our own, and we did our own sustainability fair. It was on May 4th. It was a huge success. The library counted over 1,000 attendees. We had 32 vendors. It was a terrific thanks to the Simsbury Public Library, who not only offered their venue, but really were fully a team member of this and did a lot of the heavy lifting, and we plan to do this every year. We had all kinds of activities from pollinators to composting to a bike repair. I could go on and on. It was a great, just a wonderful day. So I encourage you to join us. Also would like to make you aware, next slide, of our terrific sustainability newsletter. If you don't get it, I encourage you to subscribe to it. Shout out to Baird Faithful, who is here, who is the editor and does the real work, the real heavy lifting on this. It's come out monthly, covering a range of sustainability topics from energy and climate change and waste and transportation. Gets contributions from many other groups that deal with sustainability. Great, so the Sustainability Committee, it's worth sort of defining a little bit about what motivates us and what is our vision. Sustainability, as the name implies, really entails that we can keep doing something, right? We're not wasting all of our resources, we're not destroying things in the process. So it's sustainable, and that really the key elements of that to us are we're in balance with nature, we are equitable and inclusive of the entire community, we're minimizing our contribution to climate change, and we are protecting and preserving our resources for future generations. That's a fairly broad definition of sustainability, right? The key aims of our committee are listed here. They are energy efficiency and renewables, reducing waste, preserving our natural resources, promoting a thriving economy, diverse, equitable, inclusive community, sustainable development, and clean and diverse transportation. This pattern is patterned somewhat after the Sustainable Connecticut program, right, where sustainability is very broadly defined. Having said that, our committee really deals, let's just sort of stay with that slide for a second, really deals with energy and waste, right? Those are the two topics that, we're small, somewhat ragtag group of volunteers and we have limited resources. So those are the two topics we have focused on. Fortunately, each of those other topics, there are groups in town dealing with those, right? There is the open space, you've got Conservation Commission, you've got the pollinators, you've got the bike pedestrian advisory committee. So I think we try to play a somewhat umbrella role over all of those organizations, all of those activities, but our focus really is energy and waste. And that's what the plan that we've submitted really contains at this point, energy and waste. So I'd like to move on to each of those. And really, they are a tale of two crises, really, the energy crisis and the waste crisis. Simsbury today spends almost $106 million a year on energy alone, or over $4,000 per resident. Almost all of this comes from fossil fuels, right? It's natural gas, it's the gasoline in our cars, it's the heating oil. And in the process, we put out 9 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per person each year. And that number may not mean a lot, but it's big, right? Certainly by global comparison, it's huge. And the scientists tell us this is clearly not sustainable. So we are called both as individuals and as a community to respond and to reduce our greenhouse gas, our energy usage and our carbon footprint. And really we have an opportunity here in the process to promote energy efficiency, save our residents and businesses money. We can deploy, so really I wanna outline the 4 ways that we suggest addressing the energy crisis. And first, it's energy efficiency, right? We need to make our buildings, both new and existing, more efficient, that we're not wasting energy. That's the most important thing, right? The cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, right? Then we need to deploy as much solar as we can in town. We're not gonna put up windmills in town probably. So really, when we're talking about renewable energy, it's solar. And although I want to correct myself, and that's not as much as possible, right? You know, I think we want to responsibly site solar in town, right? And then we need to transition our transportation and our heating and cooling to all electric uses, right? To all electric vehicles and all electric heat pumps, right? And our overarching goal for energy is for residents and that for the whole town, and that's residents, businesses, and the town and schools, to use 50% clean renewable energy by 2030 and 100% by 2040. That 100% matches the goal of the state to have 100% carbon-free electric grid by 2040. So we can go to the next slide. I'm not gonna go through every action here in detail, but the committee has spent a lot of time, put a lot of thought, and consulted a lot of people to put together a tangible plan for dealing with this issue of energy. And we break it into those categories that I mentioned: efficiency, renewables, electric transportation, and electric heating and cooling. And for each of those, we've got work that the municipality, meaning the town and the schools, can do, and then work that residents and businesses can do. And it's really important that the town and the schools lead by example. Right? When the residents and businesses see the town doing these things, right, I think that has tremendous impact. So for the municipality, we have a lot more control over what we can do, right? We can directly improve the efficiency of our buildings. We can directly convert our fleet over time to electric vehicles. We can directly be sure that every building project, every new development coming into town meets the standards that we declare, right? When we're talking about residents and businesses, we don't have that direct ability to impact things, but there we're talking more about raising awareness, running campaigns to promote solar, to make people aware of the incredible deal they get with a home energy solutions audit, and all of these types of measures. Important, probably most important for both the town and for the schools is we need to know where we stand, right? We need to get the data, right? So one of the first steps is benchmarking, right? The town I know is using this tool called Portfolio Manager. We need to leverage that data and compare ourselves to other buildings that other towns have and be able to see where we stand. The school has, I think, more work to do in getting into that system. with solar, again, there's things that the town can do directly, right? We currently, the town has, I think, 3 solar arrays. There's the big one on the Simsbury Farms, there's one at Public Works, and I'm drawing a blank. And high school. Well, okay, I was gonna do the school next. There's really 2, right? So the town has 2, Public Works and at the skating rink, and it produces about 10% of our electricity. The school have 1 on the high school, it's fairly small, and it's 0.3%. Right, so really what we're proposing, let's put together a plan. Let's set a target of producing 50% of our electricity usage for the town by 2030. And then for businesses, again, we wanna set a goal. We can't impact that as directly, but let's raise awareness. Let's make sure people are aware of the state programs and the federal tax incentives for solar. And part of this is, as a town, part of that plan is where do we wanna site solar responsibly? Where don't we want solar, right? There are places in town that, I know when we built the Tobacco Valley Solar, that was a fairly controversial process, right? And partly because we had never really asked ourselves, where do we want solar, where don't we want solar, right? There are places in town where we say, you know, we wanna preserve the aesthetic quality, we wanna preserve the historic nature of places, but so I think it would help if we sort of set a plan, have that conversation. The next topic, we can go to the next slide, is transition heating and cooling. I mean, right now, we heat most of our buildings with heating oil and natural gas, right? And this is not sustainable. What we need to do is transition to all electric heat pumps. Heat pumps are much more efficient than oil and gas. A modern gas boiler maybe gets efficiency in the 90-95%. A heat pump actually has a coefficient of performance of 2 or 3, so you're getting essentially 200 to 300% efficiency. So heat pumps are simply more efficient, will need to use less energy. It's not an easy transition, right, to transition to heat pumps. Whether it's for a resident or whether it's for a business or whether it's for hall or a school, but it's possible. Businesses and places have shown us across the country that and even in very cold climates that we can transition to all electric heat pumps. So again, what we're suggesting here is let's make a plan. Right? And then the last category is transitioning of transportation, right? Similarly, electric vehicles are more efficient than gas internal combustion engine vehicles. Put emissions aside, an electric vehicle, about 85% of the effective energy gets to the wheels. With an internal combustion engine, that's more like 35%, right? So you're losing so much with internal combustion engine through heat, right? And fortunately, electric vehicles are also fun to drive, and we're getting a nice variety of electric vehicles coming along. Prices are coming down, but there's things that we need to do as a town to be ready. Do we have the charging we need? Where are people going to need to charge? Are workplaces encouraged to have the charging available? What's the school going to do when a lot of the cars are coming in and they're electric? So there's thinking, there's planning that we need to do so that we can move ahead. We'll go to the next slide. And I guess before I move on to waste, I just want to pause because one thing I really haven't made clear is that this plan is really a very rough first draft, right? Effectively, the only people that have seen this is the committee, right? So as I said, we want to restart a conversation here tonight. So we welcome your input on this, and this needs not only everyone to look at it, but gonna need a lot more fleshing out of the details, right? What are the actual buildings we're gonna work on? What are the concrete steps we're gonna have? What's the timeline? Who's responsible, right? So that's energy, and now the other challenge that we've addressed in the Sustainability Committee is waste. And I think we all know we in Connecticut have a waste crisis, right? The majority of our waste gets shipped to landfills out of state, into Ohio and Pennsylvania and other places. And that clearly is not a sustainable situation. The state has a goal of recycling or diverting 60% of its waste. It's a little harder to get really reliable data here on waste, but the statewide average is 37%. We are well below that average, right? In terms of what gets recycled, composted, or sent to anaerobic digestion. Again, like in energy, we have an opportunity here to actually save money, reduce our waste, reduce waste at its source, promote reuse and repair, and maximize our diversion. And our goal is to get to that statewide goal of 60% of diversion by 2030. And we've listed a bunch of steps of how we can get there. And again, you'll find for each that there's a breakdown between what the municipality can do. We can lead by example. We can look at the town's procurement, the town, how it deals with its waste. We can look at the schools, particularly the school cafeterias. Some other towns have done some terrific programs of really educating and diverting as much waste as possible to composting, to recycling. I think there's a lot that we can do as a town and as the schools to set an example, and then there's a lot we can do to work with our residents, to work with our businesses. Example, it's a very challenging program to implement, but there are policies, there are programs out there that have terrific impact. I mean, the big one that everyone talks about is pay as you throw, right? So we don't just put it in the trash can and then forget how much is there, and we can put as much as we want and there's no real downside to that. Whereas these programs where you're putting it into separate bags and it gets picked up and there's different designs of that, programs like that have a dramatic reduction in the amount of waste that ends up in the landfill, right? The more we can compost, the more we can recycle, the more we can divert. Members of our committee took a trip to the recycling facility where most of our single stream recycling goes to. Terrific trip, they learned a lot. We have a state-of-the-art facility in Connecticut for that single stream recycling. We'd like to offer that tour again and maybe get some of us to go. So there's a lot we can learn about waste. We really are not anywhere near where we need to be on that, and we as a state and we as a community need to step up. So really next steps, as I said, this is starting a conversation about this plan. You've got not only these slides, you've got the actual detailed plan in the packet. We welcome your close reading of this, your suggestions, your critique. We'd love it if you give us a sense of support for the vision. And our next steps really are to then take this and have the detailed conversations by all the affected parties, notably the Board of Ed, Public Works, Board of Finance, the Town Manager. We welcome your suggestions on any others. And the plan is to then come back with this plan fleshed out in a lot more detail, worked out with the affected stakeholders so that we have their actual buy-in that this is something we can achieve. And then we'll implement it together. So
I wanna give Kevin an opportunity to weigh in if he wants to, as the liaison, if you had any comments to add.
Sure, I'll say thanks, Mark and the committee for all the outreach. You saw the sustainability fair and the energy that was from there. I get accosted outside of Costco by the solar energy sellers. It's an entirely different engagement and conversation when it's a neighbor who has information to share about something that you wanted to learn a little bit more about. And I think the education is one of the largest benefits of having an organized committee that is an asset for that kind of resource and information to help those that are interested in it. For this board, and maybe some of the other boards, our concerns and considerations may be, what are some of the resources that Sustainability Committee could give us on long-term cost savings by investing in sustainable projects? For instance, if we're redoing a parking lot and a solar canopy could be installed as part of that redesign, what could we save in the long term on those energy costs, among other things and things that I couldn't imagine. So I applaud the committee's work in preparing this presentation. Yeah, nobody's voted on anything necessarily here except that there's an amazing amount of research and information available for us to consider. Thank you.
I also wanted to just, I know Tom, Public Works is your liaison, well, not your liaison, he's your guy. And just, that there might be something that we can do to see what the town, we know that you're doing stuff in this realm of sustainability and energy, either as vehicles or chargers or things like that. Maybe is there like an update we could get for the board on where, what's in your plans versus what's in their plans, and get the same kind of thing from the Board of Ed, so that we could see where we are and where we're going without the, just.
Yeah, we are in regular communication. I think some of the challenges we have is Simsbury looks different than a lot of other communities of a similar size, in that the vast majority of our public buildings are either historic buildings, we have tree canopies. We've done a lot of looking into solar on our rooftops, this being a great example. This building solar just doesn't work, the library solar just doesn't work, absolutely out of the question. Public Works, never gonna make Architectural Digest. The skating rink is perfect fit for solar, so we're looking for opportunities to do this. Mark can tell you, we've kind of pushed the envelope in the past and searched out some opportunities to do some larger solar arrays on some of the town land. And at times, one of the challenges with these is we put forward an effort and we may not end up getting a viable project out of it. But we're certainly working with it. A lot of promise going ahead.
Alright, I'm gonna make sure if we don't have any questions.
Quick question for you. Is a heat pump the same as a geothermal?
So a geothermal is a type of heat pump.
Okay.
Geothermal is also called ground source heat pump, so you're getting the thermal energy from the water, the sort of in the ground, which stays pretty much all year round, a constant sort of 55 degrees. So you pump that up, and that's the source of your heat. Whereas for a mini split or a ducted system called an air source heat pump, same principle, but it's getting the thermal energy out of the air. The ground source are a lot more efficient. It's a lot easier to heat water or air from 55 up to a comfortable maybe 65 than in the middle of winter from 10 degrees outside up to. So, but it's also a lot more expensive drilling those wells.
But do heat pumps work in the cold too, Mark?
They do.
Oh.
They do, absolutely. This is an area where the technology really has improved, right? There's what these called cold climate heat pumps that are much more efficient than the old ones. I mean, they're not highly efficient at 15 below, but we don't have that many days at 15 below either, right? So, yeah, they work all year round.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick, I always seem to do a quick first selectmen's report, and hopefully what goes out to the public is longer. I was gonna mention the discussion on the sale of lands that we did of the town attorney's statement that it was not binding and that we're referring it to the three commissions. Everybody seemed to get that came in tonight to speak on that. One other thing I wanted to bring up tonight is that tonight we will be voting on impaneling a charter revision commission. If it's approved tonight, there will be a notice sent out tomorrow with an email for people who are interested that they can send resumes, letters of interest, qualifications. There'll be a link on the website of some sort. And we'll probably, this has to happen within 30 days, so we'll be talking about that later. So just if interested, pay attention and keep your eyes out. We'll be sending that out via social media and through the town news. I'm sure Heather's gonna say this, I was just gonna congratulate Todd Myers on the fire chief being sworn in. And the other thing I was just gonna mention that I wanna wish anybody who observes a happy new year. It's the Jewish New Year starting on Wednesday night, and it is the year, I wrote it down, 5785. So I just thought I'd put that out there. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to, one more thing is we have a rescheduling coming up. Our November meeting, November 13th was a Wednesday night. And since it's the only meeting in the month, we're gonna move it to the 18th, which is a Monday night, so that we have town staff here. It helps me out a little bit and everybody agreed to it, so thank you for making that happen. And now I'm gonna turn it over to our town manager.
Thank you, First Selectman. Just two quick announcements tonight, one from engineering. Want to let the public know that the town is gonna conduct a public information meeting about the Curtis Park multi-use trail project, and that's gonna be held on Tuesday, October 8th from 6 to 7 p.m. in the Terraform room over at the library. Formal presentation is gonna be made at 6:15. If you can make it, then please do. Also, just piggybacking on Wendy's comments, wanna congratulate not just Todd, but also Chief Baldus on 48 years as our fire chief and the last 20 as chief. So I know many of us attended that ceremony over there, which frankly was very moving. And we wanna give our best to the chief for running such a great shop for 20 years. That's all I have.
Okay, you wanna start Curtis down at your end? Any updates?
We just met 2 weeks ago, so
Okay.
we had a zoning meeting on the 16th, and it was just regular zoning.
Okay, thanks.
So for the planning commission, the Simsbury Planning Commission is hosting a drop-in community workshop and open house on the Terriffill neighborhood plan, and that will be from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Terriffill School on Thursday, this coming Thursday. For public safety, we met recently again, so I would also like to welcome our new fire chief, Todd Myers, and also thank Jim Baldus and wish him well on his retirement. So we will have a new public safety newsletter that we are starting, so that'll be going out to residents next week, in the next week. So that is great. There's always a lot of updates and safety tips and information for our residents, so that'll be helpful. The police department has implemented the Rapid SOS app for our residents, so residents can download it and it allows if you call 911 for the dispatchers to see any of your allergies or medications and things like that. So that's something that residents can do. Also, there have been some recent car break-ins, and it's been a lot of smash and grab, so residents are just reminded to make sure that they are not leaving valuables in sight and that they're locking their vehicles. Also, there is going to be some drainage improvements coming this week along Seminary and from Hop Meadow to Oxford Court that will cause some minor delays. Let's see, the fire department is working on a smoke alarm campaign as well as a fire lane campaign. And the rescue access point project along the ridge line is almost complete as well. Then with the Board of Ed, they have completed projects on modernizing their fobs and cameras. They also have a new SRO, Chris Sheehan, that started and is working out very well. And also the students have been reminded and given instruction on the anonymous tip app, Say Something, which has been very successful over the years. Also, Fire and Social Services have been working together on the Steps to Safety program, and they're working on purchasing some new equipment. Ambulance has CPR and EMT registration on their site, and also there will be flu clinics, one on October 9th from 8:30 to 10:30 at ISCC, and one on October 17th at Uno Hall. And that is public
Thank you.
safety.
I was wondering if the Board of Selectmen would be interested in doing a CPR class. If we could have one. I haven't done it in a long time, so.
We could save Stephen's life.
Prioritization.
Anybody who participates get a free smoke detector.
I just have one update for personnel, and that was we have to get together our next meeting we have some openings in EDC and we've received some applications, so we need to look those over. And then next on the agenda, if we approve the town manager's goals tonight, we'll start looking at the review mechanism for performance management when we get to that early next year. That's all I have, so.
None of my boards have met since our last
good.
meeting, so.
For SIMPAC, we know we're talking about an agreement tonight, but they also had a volunteer recognition event, and thankful for all the hundreds of volunteers that they have each year at the event, and it was wonderful for them to recognize them at that event. Board of Ed, Latimer Lane completion is on target for the end of next month. And that's the latest update on that. Fair Rent Commission is ramping up unfortunately, and there's there was a hearing that was scheduled. They canceled that and decided to try to mediate that, but now there's another one that has been put up to hearing, and we are selecting dates to have a hearing for that, unfortunately. And then the only other thing is for the Aging and Disability Commission, because our next Board of Selectmen meeting is until after this, we do have our Super Thursday Fashion Show on Thursday, October 10th. Board of Selectmen are all invited to attend. Please participate as models. It is very fun. There's a luncheon at noon, followed by the fashion show in the auditorium. All residents are invited to attend as well. It is a very fun event. And I know that we have police come, the police dog comes, and we partner with Favar out in Canton for not only the clothing but for models, and it's a very well received event. Heather kind of hit everything on public safety and everything else I'm meeting this week. The only other commission I'm not sure what we're doing is Youth Services Advisory Board. And I think with the exodus of Erica in the spring, they weren't sure whether that was continuing. We had a meeting over the summer, supposed to have a meeting in about 2 weeks, so I'll let you know what's happening with that.
Thank you. Kevin?
Congratulations to the library and the Friends for raising $52,000 from the book sale.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing effort. So congrats to all the effort that goes into that, including collecting them and those who donated them and all the work that goes into setting that up, and to everyone who bought a book to support the library. There's a trip to the Art Institute this week. It's on the 26th. So this is like late notice if you haven't registered, but there is room. So if you're hearing about it now and you're listening online, look at the registration information. You can still sign up. There's room. The library's looking at beginning its 10-year furniture replacement study, and also moving some funding to support additional time for the part-time adult services librarian, so that will be under discussion as well. Early voting will be at the library this year as well, so thank you to the library for accommodating the democratic process and allowing voters an accessible path to come in. It's my understanding that they'll be able to come in the normal doors that you might go in on the downstairs side, walk through the hallway to the Terrafil room, and then you'll exit out the door on the other side. If you don't know it, you'll find out when you get there, and there'll be signs, I'm sure. So that will be available at the library. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing, DEI Council met. Congrats to the new appointees who attended the meeting. It was well done, and the DEI Council is considering additional ways to engage audiences that don't traditionally find themselves at a DEI Council meeting, and I think that that's extremely important. What's the point of talking among folks who might already agree or think that they agree? So I applaud the council for taking that on full on, and maybe everybody can get uncomfortable in the conversation, and that's exactly what they are so good at doing. Thanks.
Okay, so next up is our seeing what we can move to our consent agenda. I am going to ask for a motion. Here are some of the items that I was recommending. Item B, the refunds of, well, it's now item B because of Chief Bolter. I just put the blame there. Item B, the tax refund item. I was looking at moving item, the new item D, resolution adopting the Capital Region Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, which we tabled from last week. And item D, the resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into the federal state homeland item. And then that's really all I had, along with the appointments A and B, to move those to the consent agenda.
So just for my clarity, sorry, the former items C, D, and the 2 appointments.
And item A.
Item A, thank you.
That's a better way, former A, C, and D.
Thank you.
Anybody has any changes or wants to make any changes to those?
No, I'll make
If
a
not, can I get a motion to move those to the
So
consent?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Susan Ray, you've been appointed to the
Thank you.
Congrats.
to the library board, just so you, unless you want to stay, but I just thought I'd make that clear for you. Thank you. Okay, so now the new item A is the approval of the supplemental appropriation to the amount of $14,500 to the police department Axon contract, which I think this was this board that we discussed extending their contract, and the chief is here. So if you'd like to talk about that a little bit, and then if we have questions on it, did you wanna just kind of give a background, or
Sure.
Mark give a background on it?
Chief, please,
Since
by all
you're here,
means.
chief,
Yep, okay, from here or,
yeah, whatever you wanna do.
so we have 3 Axon products. 2 of them have 5-year contracts. One is the body cameras and the dash cameras, and the second one is the tasers. And they are spread out over different time periods because of when we ended up signing on with them originally. So we looked to try to reduce our long-term costs by combining 2 of those contracts together for a 10-year contract. Axon gave us a proposal after a lot of negotiating with them, and they projected that the cost for 10 years would be $1.5 million for both of those products, and they agreed to give it to us for $1.3 million. So there was a roughly $200,000 savings in going to a 10-year contract. And what that did was then we segmented it out, how to pay that over 10 years. And they came back and forth with different proposals for that, and we ended with where we are now. And that was shy of what we had last year. Last year we expended about $86,000, somewhere around there. And this year it's $99,000 going to that new contract. So we are shy about $14,000, and the funding for that is through the private duty fund, and the proposal for the supplement is also through that private duty fund.
Question, I did have one question, which is why you're here, so what was the difference, why did we just budgeted the 24-25 at 84.6, what caused the increase so soon to the 99?
So we renegotiated for a 10-year contract, and that was after
the budget?
It was after the May referendum.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on this? Okay, can I get a motion effective September 23rd, 2024 to approve a supplemental appropriation for the town's Axon contract in the amount of $14,502 to be funded via the private duty funds being held in the capital reserve fund, and to recommend this to the Board of Finance?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is amending the town charter. We had the public hearing tonight. We had one person speaking for it, one person speaking against it. I was just wondering if there's any discussion amongst the board about this, otherwise put it out there.
I just wanna make a comment,
Okay.
if I may, in that understanding when it says credit for the elderly and totally disabled homeowners, a totally disabled homeowner could be totally disabled at any given age. It doesn't necessarily mean over 65, and you could be a homeowner and come into a circumstances where you're totally disabled, and so it's I know there was a comment in public audience, so I just wanted to address that persons can become totally disabled at any point in their life, at any age.
And I would just,
Temporary abled body?
Yeah,
is there something that we need to, okay.
any age, I agree.
And I was just gonna comment that, it was presented from the Aging and Disability, and it is given as a way to try to maintain and keep seniors in town, as a way to offset taxes as you retire, downsize, whatever. So I am gonna ask for a motion effective September 23rd, 2024 to amend Town Code Chapter 141, Article 8, tax credit for elderly and totally disabled homeowners as presented, which shall be effective 21 days after publication in a newspaper having circulation within the town of Simsbury. Further move to authorize a summary of the amended ordinance be published.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, so everybody voted. I can't hear Kevin sometimes. Okay,
It's like an auction if I just move a little bit.
I gotta have I gotta look at the corner of my eye.
Should we give a paddle? Hold up your number.
So we're moving down the line here. So next up is, consent. Next up is the authorization of the renewal of the facility operating agreement between the town Simsbury Performing Arts Center I do wanna thank the members of this board. We kind of broke out in different teams. We had people focus on each of these because we had a bunch of agreements, and Diana and Kevin Beal worked on this. I did add my 2 cents at one point. It was tabled from last week, I believe, so just mentioning that here. And I was going to open it up. I'm not sure if Mark wants to make any comments, but open it up for discussion.
I would just introduce the item, and thank you very much, Wendy, for this. This presents the board with an opportunity to get some clarity around the engagement, the relationship with the Performing Arts Center. So just for edification of where we are now, the current agreement will expire at the end of this calendar year, at the end of December. This was a 5-year contract that, among other things, collected a license fee from the PAC of the de minimis amount of $2,500. During the term of this agreement, the town has continued to bill them for some of the routine maintenance that we work when we do work over at the facility. What this agreement attempts to do is right-size the relationship to clarify first and foremost that this is town-owned land, that the facility is owned by the taxpayers and the town of Simsbury, but that we greatly value the long-term and long-standing relationship we have developed over the years with the Performing Arts Center. With that said, what we've tried to do is build into the new agreement in front of you tonight a few better provisions. Number one, governance is, we spent a lot of time working on issues with the relationship, building a better framework for a collaboration with the Performing Arts Center, building a mechanism for us to address concerns and issues, and yes, even controversies that may occur over time. But on the other side of the spectrum, we did get a comment, public comment about the term of this. Want to spend just 30 seconds on this, that it is not at all uncommon for municipalities across the country to enter into long-term ground leases and relationships with arts entities, academic institutions, hospitals, other things that bring great value to the municipality. In fact, the reverse is more unusual. To have to renegotiate with an organization like this every 5 years suggests to the community that we aren't completely invested in the framework of what has been going on over at the PAC, and I don't think that that's true. In fact, I'd point out for the board and people watching at home that at referendum recently, town voters strongly approved the Next Act project, and that $900,000 in state grants, a total of about $800,000 from the town of Simsbury and our taxpayers, coupled with nearly $1 million, give or take, that is being raised by the PAC themselves to finally bring to fruition a project that's been on the drawing board for years. That has all been accomplished, and so we would respectfully suggest to the board that if we do that with our left hand, our right hand should also look to clarify the long-term framework for exactly what is the operating agreement. Under what rules will the PAC operate that facility and for how long? What do we expect to see? And I think the most important thing for me as town manager, we'd always like to get a higher lease payment, there's no question. But I think that for me, I want to convey to this board that moving forward, the collaborative approach, the communication between the town and the PAC and its board, the strengthening of the liaison, one member of the Board of Selectmen every 2 years would be appointed by this board to work very closely with the PAC. All of those things are in this agreement, so I just ask that while we do see some weakness in a few of the provisions, I think the hallmark of a good negotiation is not that we all walk out happy, but that we all walk out of those negotiations feeling that we accomplished what was most important to us. I also want to echo, Wendy, your comments and thank those 2 members of this board that worked with us over the last 90 plus days and 6 or 7 negotiations. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to open up for questions or comments. I just wanted to ask Kevin and or Diana if you have just a couple comments that you wanted to make.
I'll share a couple and with deference to Mark, I'm gonna slightly disagree with some of the positioning of it. Only in that I wouldn't describe this as a tenant and landlord arrangement. The original creation and its current use and partnership between the Performing Arts Center and the town of Simsbury is that it was created by the town of Simsbury. And so this is the codification of the terms under which the Performing Arts Center is able to operate as the entertainment venue on the town-owned land. And it specifies the requirements that Simsbury Meadows, the Performing Arts Center, the SPAC, takes on, and liability and all the rest, and what the town maintains as the owner of that property. And for that, among several other reasons, the term of the agreement it continues to be acceptable to me because it is the entity that the town has created for this purpose and now operates as a 501c3 that this town government and the people by extension continue to participate directly with. We have the opportunity to have consideration of members on its board. And one thing that I think is encouraging about the partnership that we're codifying here is a more direct relationship between the Board of Selectmen and the Board for SPAC. That line of communication and mind of partnership and working together, I think is extremely important to put on paper, and that's something that we're excited about, or at least I am, because any concern or otherwise can be dealt with in direct relationship and communication there. But in the unfortunate circumstance where something isn't working, there are elements in this agreement that don't tie either entity to something that's unreasonable or untenable, just like you would expect us to do and be responsible for. So the term of the agreement empowers the town and empowers SPAC and its board and its donors to be very clear about what its intent is from this time going forward, that we are working together. And the only other point that I'll make, and sorry for talking too long, Diana has got her own thoughts on this as well. I have thought long and hard about the cost for the town. The voters have spoken on next act, and so I don't wanna conflate the need of renewing this agreement and that project necessarily, but it is at front of mind, right? Because there is a cost there and what the return back is for the town. And there are those who participate in the arts and what revenue generation can be. And I think that this town could make consideration about what it would take to provide revenue back to the town and turn the Simsbury Meadows into Tanglewood and have high attendance, high net revenue, but not necessarily very community friendly or easily accessible by ticket price events that would not be good for our local businesses either. So the challenge for us is with the venue or the facility there, knowing that we will keep it, what is the best arrangement, what is the best entity, and what is the best construct under which we can have a forward-looking, community-focused, world-class facility that we find in a small town like Simsbury that hopefully we can afford. And then I guess I lied, this is my final point. I think it's really important that that SPAC has put itself out there to do this next project and is committed to raising the dollars it needs from its part of the contribution before any ground gets broken on that next project. And so that's extremely important for me, and knowing that they're guaranteeing that they're gonna be able to bring that to the table before we proceed. So that's all for me.
Thank you. Well, and on that note, understanding that they have committed to raising funds to improve a building that is still a town-owned building. And I think that's really important to note, because if something happens and we do not renegotiate in 15 years or in the interim, we are still property owners of that building and all of its improvements. I think that what I appreciate about this agreement is what has been said previously, the relationship that is now truly a public-private partnership and working together in ways that hasn't been done in years. It is an asset to our town, and what it brings in economic development Which does not mean whether people go to restaurants when there are concerts. That's not economic development. It is economic development is bringing in residents, bringing in other businesses. It is an attractive vehicle for our town as the home of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra summer program, Talcott Mountain Music Festival, which is not the same as SPAC. They are the venue that Talcott Mountain Music Festival uses for their concert series. But that is a huge draw, and having this contract strengthens the negotiating power for SPAC as well to make sure that we keep that well-beloved concert series here. Looking at other events that they will be managing on their own, I think this helps both the town and SPAC to bring in events and revenue that, you know, hasn't been able to be done so far. So I am supportive of this. I am supportive of SPAC and this agreement, and looking forward to hearing whatever the people have to say.
Okay. I have some questions, but I'm gonna let Steve have
Let
some
me
questions. I'll
start.
pound it down this way, cause I wanna give everybody a chance. You know, this is really, everybody's gotten, most of the board has had the first time to really read this in final detail and weighing in on it.
Okay.
Other than you guys.
So I approach everything more as a business mind than most people on the board. As it goes, I mean, bottom line, the thing that's not called out, that should be called out in clear black and white, wait for the full paragraph, is that this is not an increase in net receivables to the town. The rent goes up by $5,000, but we make concessions of $30,000. And that should be more black and white in here as far as what's going on. That being said, part 2 of the paragraph is this is a crown jewel. Just like Simsbury Farms, we should support it. I just don't like the fact that's not called out, and the fact that we're talking about $7,500, not to belittle $7,500 to each of us is a lot of money. $7,500 in comparison to our town budget is an addition error. And I don't mean we make those errors, don't take it out of context. That being said, if we're gonna kick in additional money and we are gonna hold this as a town jewel, I would want it to be a town-owned and interactive facility. As I went through the years from Simsbury Performing Arts Center's events, the one thing that I found glaring, and not necessarily negative in its own right, is that everything has been held on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The weekday activities are limited to Circus Smirkus, who has not been invited back, so if it was retroactive to this past year, there would be no events on Monday through Thursday. Another one of my concerns is civic organizations, not just the civic organizations, but town of Simsbury oriented clubs have a tough time because SIMPAC has to cover, excuse the term, but and I don't wanna use the term, so give me a second to think of another one. They're not. They have to cover it, and it's hard for a civic organization to be able to come in during the year and have the same constraints that the weekend has on it. You do have your infrastructure of your outhouses or portalets or whatever the heck they're called, as well as rubbish removal and stuff. But I would want, if this is gonna be a town-owned facility, that concessions would have been made for town interests to be able to utilize the facilities on the off days. Obviously, SIMPAC needs the exclusivity for weekends. And if they had an event on a weekday, then they need that exclusivity. But to not utilize this facility 4 out of every 7 days, every day of the envelope, which has been expanded now to April through October, so it's chump change November through March, nobody wants an outdoor event. So basically, they've got the exclusivity on the viable season, and I don't see anything in here for a town organization to be able to utilize the facility on an off day. So to circle all the way back, now there's one other thing I wanna bring up, the naming rights. but I think we've established it's a town-owned facility, but it's not drawn out here because I know there's been a double-edged thing as far as they wanna utilize the naming rights as a possible monetized thing where they can have a donation for the stage rights. And it's not addressed in here, and it just seems glaring because I know this has been a point of discussion and it appears it wasn't encompassed in this, and I won't come down on which side of who gets what, but it should be clarified in black and white, the naming rights. So that sort of gives the onus of everything that I have, but I don't. It's unfortunate was not able to bring these things about the weekday availability to town organizations. I'm not sure how it can be addressed.
I'll help you out.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
section 3, part C in town use, we cover that in saying that during the season, the town may use the ground provided it doesn't interfere, compete with the mission, or conflict with the scheduled activity. So they're not using it, we can use it.
I have a question on that then, because I had that highlighted, I read that and I understand that, but it only says during the season, the town may use the associated grounds provided, so that does not mean the buildings. Is that what that's supposed to mean, or is it supposed to mean the premises?
No, it's the grounds that are associated with the facilities. It's not like the adjunct facilities.
Okay, I thought it was defined
Board
somewhere.
of Ed has a meeting room.
Pardon me?
Board of Ed has a meeting room. If they're not meeting in there, we can meet in there. Right? So that's their meeting room, but if they're not meeting in there, we can meet in there.
I guess my
That's the same
question was that it just said, I thought there was a different definition of the associated grounds versus the premises.
I see your point, Wendy, and I think if that would make the board more comfortable, I'm sure that our counterparts on the other side of the table wouldn't mind changing that word to premises. I agree with Selectman Beal that you know, the inference, the way it's written is that the town can utilize the facility. In fairness, because the word premises is used throughout the document, I would tend to agree with you that we could ask them to clarify that in your approving motion if you wanted to make that fix. I'm fairly confident that we could get the other side to agree to it, but let me just add that during the off-season, we use it anytime we want to, although obviously there's potentially snow on the ground. During the season, I'm confident, notwithstanding what it says in the agreement, the plain language, that the relationship that we've built and the change in what this demonstrates is that, you know, we could pick up the phone and work with them as partners in collaboration and get these things worked out. And I do agree that there may have been a lack of that ability in the past over the years, but I really think we're beyond that.
And that's great, cause I had asked that question, it's just that item 2 specifically calls out parcel B as associated grounds and parcel A as the performing arts center and the premises. So that, to me, that's the only glitch, is the words that were used there.
And again, I'd offer to the board that if it would help to earn support for this, obviously we wanna try to do that with our colleagues at Simpak, so just substitute the word premises if you like to do that. I see your point and I think it needs to be clear. If I could just add one other thing, I scribbled a note to myself, just to remind the board what I think, you know, we all know, and that is that arts organizations around the country operate on the margins. And whether you look at the 7,500 as an increase, it isn't. If you net out the fact that we won't be billing to mow the lawn anymore, that's true. If you look at the net as a business person would, I agree with Selectman Antonio that in that regard, it's a concession. But to me, it's a distinction without a difference, because the value that the organization adds to the community is so far in excess of that de minimis amount that you know, we're out of negotiations now, so I could say that my view is that, you know, to talk about 7,500 as opposed to 15,000, again, against a budget of 110 million, and a commitment from all of us and our voters and constituents to support Next Act to the tune of 800,000 tells us that this should be approved in its current form, respectfully.
Okay, thank you. Since I'm talking, can I keep talking and then pass it down?
It's your meeting.
I know, I'm just trying to be fair, I don't wanna do everything. Okay, so I think the intent of this, which I think is great, is that we are recognizing this as a town-owned facility, right? And that's the goal of this, and I think that goal is portrayed here. So the cost of maintenance and things like that, it becomes part of the town's bill, right? That's what we do at the farms, we do that at the whatever, wherever else we do that. So I don't really have a problem with that. What was I gonna say here? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I did have a couple questions on
The internet.
oh, well, that was one question. I did just wanna make a comment about the term. And I understand the need for the long term, and I'm not gonna die on that hill. But the only thing that I did notice in that is that there's no request to revisit the term, but there is a request for an extension in year 2040. So I just felt like that was kind of an imbalance in that we can't look at it if there's something that we need to revisit to change the contract, but we can extend it in 2040, which is a long time away. But I understand, I think I understand the need, and I guess there are clauses in here if there's issues that we can bring it back to the table. I had mentioned to Mark that it would be great for us to track the costs going forward if that's an option of the maintenance of the grounds and things like that, which we do at the farms, and then we can see that, and if for some reason they get absorbent, that's I guess a topic to bring back to the table to help with the town weigh in on that, to reduce that. The other comment that I had these are just things that I think as long as they're explained, I'm good. I think the public gathering language is confusing. Do we or don't we need public gathering permits from the PAC?
It's a great question. The answer is for their routine, every year occurrences, no. But for anything that is extraordinary, out of the ordinary, or for a first time, yes,
So that would follow the same path,
as your policy.
but the rest, you won't get the public gathering permits for normal course of business and administratively.
No, but my office would inform the board, so the
Of a
board
big
would get
to-do.
of the via a communication.
Yeah, if the Rolling Stones are coming, we're
We
gonna
would certainly
know, right?
communicate that well in advance, yeah, yes.
I would prefer Bruce Springsteen, I think, but I'll take it.
No.
You're gonna tell me, Chris. And then the internet, that was still in here. I think that needed to be clarified because I brought that up last time and it's still in here. So do we take that out is a question.
I got word from their negotiator on this question, Chair, and we can add, they are good with adding the words "if any" after internet. There is no internet there, so the current agreement calls for the provision of internet, which has never been done. And it was simply a cut and paste to the new agreement, it never came up. But to my colleagues, ping was okay when I spoke with them today about
Well,
paying.
wouldn't we just take out the internet?
Well, it's if I think the intent is if so there's been talk about Main Street Partnership and looking at internet and actually using the Meadows as a base for it initially. So if we are then providing internet at that facility, so if any is available, it would be able to be utilized in that capacity. But in the absence of current internet currently, then it's not available, like it's not something that we can provide. But when it is available, so if any internet does become available now or within the terms of this agreement, and we provide in parts of town, that is internet that would be available for use. Is that correct?
I would simply say that if it became available, we wouldn't be charging them, is really what they wanted, the if any, I think, in there for. But yes, that's right.
Okay. I guess my other questions are just more clarifications. And I'm not gonna really totally nitpick on this, cause I read it before and I think I'm okay with the work that's been done here. And I wanna see if other people have questions on this before we bring it to a vote. So, Heather.
Okay, so in reading this, I'm trying to think of it not so much as how the Performing Arts Center is being used today, but once the addition is put on and a lot of the reason for putting the addition is to be able to attract more bands and groups for performances and things, and how that will be used. And as the Performing Arts Center attracts more groups and they're busier, have we thought about grandfathering in certain events such as Simsbury High School graduation and certain things that should be a given that we are allowed that space and it doesn't get taken from us for just, I don't know what other events that we have, but if there are a handful, so that we no longer, I just wouldn't wanna see a situation where we can no longer use it for certain events that are special for us to use the space
Like a
for.
graduation.
Yes,
high
like the
school
Simsbury High School graduation. In addition, the fields situation for playing fields and athletic is always a huge issue in this town. And those fields are used for lacrosse and a number of sports, and just have we thought about, and it's not, have we thought about just what that looks like when those fields are taken away? And that might not even be something in this agreement, but as the PAC gets busier, have we looked at as a town, what happens when we most likely lose those as potential playing fields? So I'm just trying to look at this as they grow, and that's a great thing and why we want the space, but have we thought about grandfathering in the graduation into this agreement? And if there's something else that's special in that regard, and just have we thought of as a town, looking at it as we're potentially losing those fields, it's already problematic.
Those are great questions. I would say that, to Wendy's earlier point and mine, the framework of the entire new agreement sets the stage for those types of discussions to happen, pretty much from day one. I guess I'll turn it on its head and put it this way. You can't, I don't think in my experience, you can put into an agreement every foreseeable occurrence. We could have built-in protections for, say, the graduation or one or two other things. The issue with that, I think, was, among other things, what about the one or two things that we didn't think about putting in that agreement, and who did we upset by not getting that event in there? As you attach, for example, Schedule C. These are things that are grandfathered in, to use your term. So we do see, and some thought has been given to the need to protect those legacy items. But I think for me, it became a question of trust and collaboration. They are our partners, it's town-owned land. We've selected them, as Selectman Beal indicated, created them in fact, and selected them to run the facility for us. I think I'm confident sitting here, Selectman Getz telling you that they would always accommodate requests for things like our high school graduation. And I'll defer to Diana and others who have been in the community a lot longer than me. But at some point, I trust them to do that.
Well, I'll just mention that actually, Heather, we actually did bring that up in part of our negotiation at one point, but had to take a step back because it was becoming too granular, as Mark alluded to. And this is an operating agreement, and we can't touch point on every single event that we may or may not be able to use. Yes, the graduation is a big thing, but it would not behoove SPAC in any way, shape, or form to take that to remove that ability to have that town event there. I think it would hurt them greatly if it ever came up to say, we don't feel that we can have the graduation utilized. And the same with the sports field. Right now, they are being utilized, and as a larger picture, that's a town project, for the fields in general, but that shouldn't be on the back of SPAC to solve what the town needs to figure out on its own. But I understand what you're saying, it's town fields and we need to be able to utilize them. But we did start to go down looking at exceptions for graduation and other things, and realize we need to keep this at the high level operating agreement. And then within that, we have the relationship to have usage agreements and abilities as we go on. As long strengthening the relationship between SPAC and the town is only going to help to make sure that those events and that type of agreement will continue going forward. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, it helped me answer her question. I was doing okay, but thank you. I will just hammer one thing before Curtis goes, because I know this is also an area that is important to Selectman Looney. And that is that, as Diana said, the issue of all of our athletic fields is a townwide issue. And we are gonna have to address that in a number of ways. But I agree that the Simpak facility is first and foremost an arts venue that we are very proud of, and we want to make that its primary purpose. So everything else becomes secondary. The other thing I would say, well, I don't wanna be, a Debbie Downer, but looking at the Simpak's growth over the last 10 years, we haven't seen the numbers that frankly I would have hoped to have seen, with the exception, I think, of a couple of shows. But I think where we can partner with them, apart from the agreement, is maybe working collaboratively to review their practices and what can be done to leverage the next act success. So that all of this money is being put into the facility. What does that mean for the town? And we need to think about that. And we will continue to have those discussions. This agreement calls for annual reports to this board, I think quarterly meetings with the town manager, and maybe during the season, I believe it's monthly with DPW as well. So I hope that helps.
Curtis, you have any questions you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Stephen on the naming rights. I think that should be called out.
So do I.
Well, can I just say, we do have the naming rights policy that has to be followed
It is
for
the
whatever,
policy, yeah,
so it's a separate
and,
policy, separate from
I'd be happy to
this.
send it to them.
We sent it to Franklin actually sent it to me after the last meeting, cause I asked for it. I did send it to everybody on this board to read it, so there is a separate policy that we can share with the PAC if they probably have already seen it, so
We have an agreement that we set
And
up with the Board of Selectmen about naming the facility. We came in here, we got a vote, we made a proposal.
So it's probably part of the naming rights policy, so that was when it was done, I think it was done last term. Anything else?
Yeah, so I think part of this agreement, we should have I know it's already too late, but if there was ever thought of provision for low income, so more people could attend these events, just one provision, one thought. The second thing was, I know in the past we have had events that go over 6,000 people. I think we're maxed at 6,000. So are we doing anything in here to address the additional exit points? Just to be sure we get that, or we don't have any events that go over 6,000 people?
We don't currently, but there is a life safety study that's been commissioned, and we can share with the board when completed, and there's been and in the process of that study looking at entranceways, access to fire, police, all of the public safety issues. And as was mentioned earlier, there's a movement afoot to potentially put free Wi-Fi down there and so forth. So there's a number of provisions that will be looked at after the agreement becomes official, and that's one of them.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this back in. I do wanna say that I look at the PAC as that kind of a gem in our downtown area. I always have, I pretty much go mostly to the HSO shows, but if Bruce or the Stones came, I would definitely be there. I mentioned the naming rights thing. One thing I was at a wedding last weekend in Chicago, and one thing that I noticed, and I showed it to one member of our board, was in the center of Millennium Park is the Jay Pritzker Arena, which I assume is a municipal owned and it's huge and it's beautiful, but it's right in the center of the park, and everything in the center of that park circulates around that facility. And so I kind of looked at that as, where we could go here, is that this would really just be an icon, especially with the apartments and things like that. And I'm also hoping that we're not talking next act, but I do know that we're gonna be looking at programming and things like that, and I do look forward to, where we can go with that. So
Wait, don't forget Bruce Stock, come on.
Bruce Stock, oh yeah, I forgot, we'll be going to that, I'm sure. So I'm gonna, with the proposed changes, I'm gonna ask for a motion effective September 23rd, 2024 to approve the facility operating agreement with the Simsbury Performing Arts Center as with the changes that were made today, the premises, the internet, and then look at a couple additional things that came up on the side, I'm not including that in the motion, and authorize town manager Mark Nelson to execute the agreement.
What were the changes on the side?
Well, he said there were things that we would look at later, like grandfathering or tickets or things like that, just kind of small, not operational things, but
So I
Town
think I fully understand your intent to the motion on the front end of
I'm
those changes.
taking that out of the motion.
That's fine, yeah, so okay, so
I just-
there's
it
there's
was in a-
additional discussion as always with any
It
of
was
these
in a,
things.
it was in a aside that I shouldn't have said in the
That's
middle
okay,
of
I
the
just
motion.
wanna make sure I understood the motion.
Got it.
And I'm happy to make it then if that's.
I'll
Yes.
read it again.
I still have some discussion.
Okay, well, we're getting to discussion.
We can discuss it.
So that motion as presented is on the table.
Second.
Did you move?
He moved, I seconded.
Okay, now I'm gonna open it up for discussion.
The naming rights, I'm unclear because the naming rights policy was circulated to the board, but it was from 2016 or something, not 2023. So that's why I'm confused on that, and that's my point actually, is the communication. It's not one way or the other, it's the big, two different people are thinking two different things about this issue. The other thing is, parking is not acknowledged, I meant to bring this up earlier. If to our charrette, we do away with those town center parking lots, are we encumbered to the Performing Arts Center? They need parking. They can't just park in the private businesses, as we know from the past. And I don't see parking acknowledged because those lots are sort of necessary for them. And I don't understand the Plan B as far as a 15-year plan. If this was a 5-year plan, I would not bring this up, but this is a 15-year plan. And our charrette calls for us to develop those parcels, which is the primary parking. I mean, I assume we'll do satellite or work it around. I just find it missing from this component because it's something they would want. Not to argue or not to argue on their side, but it seems like a valid thing because I know one branch of our government is looking or considering, has always been looking to develop those. And it just seems like this is a great plan, but that's actually actively not moving forward, but actively on the table. And it's another thing that's missing from this. Did you find the naming rights answer?
I was,
I think the proposal has to be made to the first selectman. I
What
think this board has to approve it. That's my understanding.
so naming rights policy, I don't remember when it was done, but it's something that we can revisit on the side from this, actually, if it's not meeting our needs, right?
Point of information, I just
Yeah.
sent you all via email the SIMPAC naming rights policy, August 8th, 2022.
Two.
The one I sent
Oh.
earlier
Oh, that
was
was a
just
different one.
the naming rights policy
See,
of
for
the
the
town,
town.
my error. The one in SIMPAC is one paragraph long and I just emailed it to all of you for you to consider. We can possibly include that somewhere.
Thank you, Franklin.
Since this was already voted on and discussed and approved by this board, I'm not interested in opening it back up again. I'm willing to accept it.
I'm saying, and when it's not on the table right now, I'm saying if we wanna revisit naming rights policies, we can do that external to what we're doing tonight, cause right now we're doing the
I think
agreement.
that's our right. I think in good faith, we've all done this agreement and also approved those naming rights as part of the fundraising that they're hoping to do for this campaign that they're in. I think I've been on the record being pretty direct in my expectations of them to be able to raise the money. I think it's also reasonable for us to not change the rules of the game down the road.
But this contract's on the table. This is one of the times, cause we're locked up for 15 years. This was done by a prior board and albeit it's in place right now, the place for it to be talked about or inclusive is in this contract. You know, if you feel that this is the proper naming rights, I'll be honest, I'm on the fence on this because it's a town-owned facility. Now we're kicking in the maintenance too, because it's a town-owned facility, which I'm fine with. But now we're going to sell the naming rights to town-owned things. Can I sell the naming rights to this building?
I mean, I don't think we need to be flippant about it, Stephen. I'm
No,
taking this pretty
but it's-
seriously.
let's,
It's a valid point. You
I
know,
don't-
it carries a $2.5 million value on this.
All I know is it's been on the agenda. We've had a good faith discussions among us and I thought that we were presented and understood what the positions were. I was willing to go into this with all of us and understand it better or bring it up before in our negotiations. It hasn't been brought up again because both parties, new board or not, they're a new board from 2 years ago too. In good faith, it's been already negotiated and I see nothing in it. You're a business professional, I'm a fundraising professional. That I would find problematic about it.
Yeah, but this is the first time I'm seeing the contract, in all fairness, Kevin. So saying my things were not inclusive, it's sort of like, here, sign this, you know what I mean? So that's part of where I'm looking for clarification, not to stymie.
No, I agree, I absolutely agree, and I think that this discussion is important to have. I want you to have all the information you need in order to make an informed decision.
I don't think this was fleshed out, it's not even a component of the contract. That's my concern, is I've heard both sides of this issue, it being a town property and it sets precedent that we are allowing people to sell naming rights for town parcels. And it becomes interesting. It's also a component for final act or next act, that it's a component of their ability to fundraise. So it sets an awkward precedent. And us doubling down with this is the time to bring it up, in my opinion, because the first time I've been able to speak about it. And then clarify that you want to double down with the naming rights and put them down in this contract.
If I may offer
'cause
just a maybe a compromise, at least a rebuttal on part of this. If the Board of Selectmen took an action back in 22 relative to naming rights, it did it outside the context of the existing agreement. It's not, what that board, and that's prior to many of the people here, but what that board should have done and could have done, had it elected to, was simply asked to amend the operating agreement. If the position we're gonna take is that naming rights should be in the operating agreement, then they should have been in the operating agreement back in 22.
But this doesn't acknowledge, our town has a naming rights policy, and this is
Which is
in
external
direct contradiction.
So can,
Nothing changes that. Whatever Franklin emailed you would be the last most appropriate action that the board took. Nothing in this agreement supplants what the board did when whatever it did that Franklin emailed you.
so it's like, I wanna get back to, we had the motion on the table, the motion was seconded, we're having a discussion. We've introduced a new policy in the midst of this discussion that's external to the agreement, which I feel if we need to address that policy and the town naming rights policy, we would have to do that separately because it is currently not in the agreement, nor was it in the agreement before. So I would like to proceed with the vote on the agreement alone, and if there's interest of the board, we bring the naming rights back to the table as a policy discussion.
I think that's fair, Chair.
My point, I think, is being missed. The naming rights should go along with the 15-year term. The naming rights should not survive the agreement with Simpak. It's not that I don't want them to have those naming rights to use for charitable drives. It's that I think they should be a component of this lease, not separate.
So I just wanna make sure I understand. So is your proposal then, they have the ability to fundraise and have naming rights for the stage, not.
I'm okay with that,
Right,
yes.
right. But then at the expiration, if this operating agreement expires, so does the name on the facility, is that what you're saying?
So just to be clear, in the naming policy, there is a 10-year naming ability for the gift. So
A
that's
10-year
covered.
term at a time, or is it, does it extinguish after 10 years?
It's covered in the
Let
agreement
Kevin-
as I would have
let's Kevin,
expected
go ahead.
in a negotiated gift for the naming rights.
It says a minimum of a 10-year term, it
That's
does not
correct,
say a
that's what the
maximum.
donor would expect, it means you don't tear the sign off. And they, if you don't have a new leadership gift in place.
However, my point still stands, cause if they agree to a 20-year term, it survives this agreement. It's a nuance in the lease, but I
I'm
think
willing to
it's.
stipulate that if the agreement were different, it would be different, but it is what it is.
Oh,
It is a
that's
10-year term, and I don't need to discuss whether or not what it would have been if it were 20. It is 10, and that's also reasonable and acceptable in this world. I don't find it odd. It seems very straightforward and acceptable to me.
I'll go with Wendy's thing that we can pull it out, but I do think it should have been included in this as part of the agreement to expire if the
We
agreement
didn't
ever
include
expired.
every ordinance in the agreement either. Those are expected and understood.
Again, like we if we have a noise ordinance, that would change parts of the other ordinance, things like that. So the motion's on the table, we've had the discussion, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You do so enthusiastically, Curtis.
Okay, so that motion passes.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for that, and I think it's extremely important for this board to know that certainly my position, and I think others is, that this isn't the end of the relationship. That this is an important partnership that we need to have honest conversations with the PAC board, just like we had tonight.
I agree, I think we should get a first blush before a final contract is submitted where some of these points could have been encompassed in it.
Well, I heard that Wendy was very inspired by the Pritzker, and it's gonna be a Maxtutis.
No, it's Maxtusis.
Maxtusis.
Okay, let's
All
move
the
on.
S's.
It's 8:30, we've been here a long time and we have a lot to do. The next item that is a new stay this whole time for this. We're scheduling a public hearing, or we're going to vote to schedule a public hearing for the proposed amendments to Town Code Charter 133 solid waste. Basically, Tom, you could just answer the question I asked you earlier and just say what we're doing here.
Boy, after that last discussion, phew, a lot of pressure. Long and short of it, way back in 2010, when the Mid-Connecticut plant, which used to be our trash to energy plant, was closing, a bunch of towns through CROG got together and formed the Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority. Simsbury was one of those founding members. The organization continues today. We need to upgrade our ordinance to match new policies for CCSWA. Being a member of CCSWA puts us in line to work collaboratively with our neighboring communities. It also puts us in line for grants.
Okay. Any questions? Well, you can do it during discussion. We're gonna move ask for a motion effective September 23rd, 2024 to schedule a public hearing regarding the proposed amendments to Town Code Charter 133 solid waste for 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October 16th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have two public hearings on October 16th. That'll be a fun night. You want yours first or?
You want yours first, speak up. Seriously, we should
Sure, I'll
make
take it.
sure.
I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Take it.
I'll make
Yeah, we'll do yours first.
Includes
I don't
us.
think anybody's gonna be here for the
There could be some comment on the
the moving of the, okay. Alright, and never mind. So the next item is to authorize the town manager to apply for a state of Connecticut early voting grant. As we all know, that the Secretary of the State's office with early voting is putting a lot of strain on our registrars or voters to have open early voting. So I think any money is good money that we can get in this realm. I'm gonna ask for a motion effective September 23rd, 2024 to submit a grant application to the State of Connecticut Secretary of the State for a grant to assist with the cost of early voting and authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute the grant application. Move to accept the grant and authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute all documents related to the grant award. And since the amount is about $8,000, further move to appropriate the grant funds and recommend said appropriation to the Board of Finance.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Oh, good.
So I just have one question for Mark. Do you know what the total cost is of our early voting staffing and program?
I can get that information for you, but I wanna echo the words of the first selectman, we're under tremendous pressure.
Yep.
And that number is probably at least 10 times the amount.
I would agree,
right?
and I think
Yeah.
it's important
Just off the
for-
top of my head.
for residents to know what that cost is, and so I'm not asking for anything huge out of this, but I think it would be important for us to
I will
know that while we're getting this funding from outside the state, it's not nearly covering our additional costs to run an election.
And I'll report back on it.
It's
Thank
a
you.
little, so did I have a
didn't vote.
motion and a second? That was a discussion.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item, wait a minute, where's the town manager's goals?
It's next.
Okay,
That's the new G.
I was hoping that was
That was
last.
moved to consent.
That's the new G.
It's the new eye.
Okay, I
It
might
goes
need a
down
break.
until
Oh,
everybody's
the new
doing it.
eye.
The new eye, okay, so
Right.
so these are the town manager's goals. The personnel subcommittee has looked at them many times and we now see it in a nice road column format, so we're very happy that it's in Excel like that. We did make some tweaks, we did make some combinations, there is a good level of detail here that we will be able to use when we do a performance appraisal. But since Steve, Heather and I have seen this about 5 times in personnel subcommittee, we're gonna open it up to the rest of the board to add comments and see where you would like to make changes, corrections, additions, or merging. So putting it out there.
If I
Oh,
can
you
add
had
one
enough
last thing.
chances.
Alright.
That does bug me when you guys do that. Your subcommittee brings these here. You shouldn't have
We
questions.
were done with it, that's why we brought
It's more,
it.
I'm pointing something out.
Okay.
The one column we didn't pre-populate is the
Oh.
priority level.
Okay.
So we can still prioritize goals, and the theory would not be they'd be numerical with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Number 1 would be things we gotta get done.
High,
Yeah.
medium,
2
low.
would be, we pretty much better get these done. 3, so it's not just numerical, we list them all in a ranking, but that is not filled in yet.
I do like Kevin's, which we've used before, is the high, medium, and low.
Yeah, that's what we've traditionally
Yeah, that's what we've
used.
done
We can do
traditionally.
that, that's fine.
Are you asking that we're gonna do that tonight? I guess, are we gonna do that tonight?
I don't think.
No, I look forward to the town manager's contribution to that discussion so that
Why
we
don't
can
we,
consider it.
how about if we, you guys look at, well, we still wanna discuss about the content, but what if we take these and everybody kind of submits their high, medium, and low, and we look at it sorted nicely in Excel to see where we land?
Totally great.
Does that sound like?
I have a question, just a process question.
Just don't
and
mark them all high.
This is my newness to Simsbury's town government. Do we just accept these goals or do we actually have to adopt them? I mean, they're his goals, are negotiated with you, he's presenting them to us, after discussing, with the subcommittee. I'd be willing to have us accept the goals and he's presenting them to us in its current state. We're giving our agreement that we're accepting them and he's gonna help us set priorities and we can give feedback as well. So that's my thought. And then maybe it moves past, this wait to add the weighted categories and all this. That's just an observation.
So the motion is to adopt them, you would rather that said,
Yeah, that we're accepting them, he's presenting them to us and after
oh, so that
discussing
we
with
have
you and
nothing to
personnel
do with
subcommittee.
it? This is-
No, we do, this is part of the, it's just a thought, and so it's.
I'm open to anything to get this moving forward and to have this done.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of feel the way, I don't really know the difference between adopt and accept in this.
I don't know, I was trying to help you not have to assign the weighted categories
I'm
and then
not
we can
doing
vote
it.
on it tonight.
We're not doing that tonight.
Are you gonna vote on it without the weighted categories?
Well, I think what we're saying is, these are the goals that were whittled down into these categories. Most of these goals, a lot of these goals reflect our goals.
Mhm.
A lot of this is labeled town manager general government, which falls into the administrative category of what a town manager does as his role, right, as the chief executive officer in the town. And then our goals are, and the community engagement is also really a function of being the town manager, chief executive of the town. We have included in here the key strategic fiscal options that we talked about, which were, the budget and making sure that we can find savings and working on the union contracts and things like that, and doing all the MOUs and contracts that we've talked about. So those are all in here. Economic development is in here, whereas, working more with Main Street, economic development, finding ways to bring business and tax dollars to town. And then also supporting the boards and the commission. So I think the goals, I'm happy with the goals that are here. I'm not sure what to do about the priority level.
I think we can adopt the goals without doing the priority levels and then do the rather than, cause if we adopt them, we're adopting these as the goals and then we move to the next step of prioritizing. I do have a question though.
Yeah, sure.
Just a quick one, and maybe it's in here somewhere and I just keep not seeing it.
Yep.
Because it was part of our Board of Selectmen goal, so maybe it's wrapped up into that one, but under fiscal and strategic planning, really recognizing the need for grants and undertaking the grant and income for other income to the town in forms of grants and other possible things.
think
We
it's in
did
here
a-
somewhere.
We did look for cost savings in the budget, but I don't think grants are actually called out in here as a specific goal. Because grants are so far reaching and it varies who it is appropriate to pursue such. We do have it as part of our Simsbury Main Street Partnership MOU that they will research grants. There's been some talk, we did have some talk about different ways to spin that grant, and honestly, it's a future conversation. But it's sort of assumed, I think, that if there was a grant, Mark, help me if I'm wrong, that you would reach out for it, such as we're going for the early voting grant. But it's not a goal, it's more a part of the job, it's not a job description.
But I think that there's some grants out there that, yes, so early voting, they're coming up on an as needed basis, but I think that we could also, as a goal, and maybe it's not on him, but like we find a resource, and it was one of our goals, to research other grants that we are not aware of that are out there. There's tons of grants out there that we are not capturing and utilizing here in town, and could be utilized for some of these capital improvement projects or other things that come along. So I don't think it needs to be a specific goal in itself, and maybe it's wrapped in somewhere else, but to not just as they come along like, oh, early voting and then we'll do this grant and this grant, but either dedicate a resource from the town manager's purview off us or whatever, but also not only to research and then implement the grant process.
So can I add
Please.
So we do have a line item that just just outright points to our goals as a goal, which we could make high. But I'm wondering if we could take 1, 2, 3, like item 4, C1B, right? Which talks about identifying savings and efficiencies, and add and optimize grant opportunities to offset costs.
Perfect.
Would that be good for you?
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay, so we'll make that change.
Thank you.
Put a H there, cause we know that. So as far as the ranking goes, do we wanna just have everybody, we've done things like this in the past, it's not the greatest, most efficient way, but everybody can have this spreadsheet, everybody can look at it themselves, everybody can do their high, medium, lows. You could kind of compile them, sort it out, see what it looks like, and then push it back out to everybody, or kind of make decisions based on that. Does that work for people?
They're all high priority.
Well,
What happened to goal A1?
That was Board of Selectmen goals, it's a nuance that they forgot, but the first A1 was to pursue all Board of Selectmen goals.
And I were asked to have it as really the town manager. And
Oh, under D1?
Well, because that's the
Yeah.
town manager's
Okay.
role, right?
Great,
And
got
the- okay?
Yep.
Alright, so,
That is a nuance though.
Yeah.
We should
No
shift
ways.
all the letters.
yeah.
I mean,
We'll clean it up.
I moved to adjourn.
Yeah, we gotta get to the charter, so let's get through this, alright?
Oh, we haven't done that yet.
No, we haven't, but I think that will be basic. Okay, so I'm gonna move effective September 23rd, 2024 to adopt the town manager's goals for 2024-2025 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
With the amendment of
Yeah.
it.
A friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment,
On grants, we got you.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, sorry, I said it, but I
C1B.
C1B to make that thing, okay? We all look good?
To optimize grant
Motion
opportunity.
seconded, is that correct? Any discussion? Sorry, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, boy, that was faster than I thought. I guess this is what happens when it's at 8:40 or 8.
Nobody wants to talk about the charter.
About the what?
The charter.
The charter, yeah, the charter, so here's the charter, did you get your little handy sheet that I gave you? Yep. We're doing number 1 right now, and I spoke to Bob, I met with Bob about this. All we need to do right now is get a 2/3 vote of the board to impanel a charter revision commission. Now, there is an error in here, I'm gonna point that out. So first, the one thing that is in here is
Point of
oh, yeah.
information. Bob D
Oh, yeah, Bob's supposed to call.
has emailed me and would like Zoom access and I can do that, I just need like 5 minutes.
Okay,
to
good,
sit.
because I could use a 5-minute
use a
recess.
little-
I forgot about Bob D.
Hi, Bob D.
I asked him to say something. He's gonna join
I'll
in.
be listening live, I'm gonna set up the Zoom if you could
Okay,
give
I'd like
us
to
a 5
ask for
minute.
a motion.
Just declare us and, yeah.
Okay, I wanted to follow your rules, Kevin.
That's right.
Okay, we're taking a 5-minute recess. Alright, so as I was saying, Bob, without you there thinking that I was doing this without you, we are here to establish a charter revision commission. I sent that handout out that was in the CCM, basically the step by step, and I said, all we're doing right now is initiation, 2/3 vote to establish a panel. I'd like you to just weigh in on a few things, if you wanna just set a little ground for the board, and then we can get on with the vote, and then the change the correction that we need.
Right, well, yes, you're here tonight on step one, initiation. And the resolution to be effective has to pass with a 2/3 vote of the entire membership, which in your case is 4 votes. And then within 30 days of tonight, you must appoint the commission of no fewer than 5 nor more than 15 electors, not more than a third of whom may hold another public office. Now, last time around, the board appointed an initial group of 5 because they weren't, hadn't lined up everybody yet. And then at a subsequent meeting, they appointed 4. So a month from now, 30 days from now, you have to appoint at least 5 members. And if you have more lined up, that's good too. But 5 members will form the commission and you will have met the statutory requirement. And then once the commission is impaneled with your resolution within 30 days, then really the commission takes over from there. And the other thing you have to do when you impanel the commission is you have to give it a charge. Tell the commission what issues you would like them to work on. And you also have to establish a deadline for them to submit their draft report. And it can be up to 16 months from the date of their being impaneled. So tonight is step 1. And I'm looking at the chart that Wendy handed out. It's a very good chart. And then within 30 days, your next meeting, I understand, is August 16th, so you probably want October 16th, you probably want to do it at that meeting. You have to appoint at least 5, but up to 15 electors.
Okay, couple things that I wanted to point out in this document. Currently, the whereas clause on the first page needs to read, whereas the Board of Selectmen must appoint members to the Charter Revision Commission but before 10/23/2024. Can we state it like that?
Yeah.
Can we state it like that?
Right.
Because my concern is, we have the meeting on the 16th. If for some reason we're not ready, that still gives us time to have a special meeting to impanel the commission, and we're hoping to do it on the 16th, but we do legally have till the 23rd. So that's just one.
Do we
Can you say that one more time?
So this says October 28th because that's our last meeting in October, but that's outside of the window of 30 days.
Right.
Our next meeting is 10/16, which is inside of the 30 days. So if we say 10/16, I guess we can say it if we're gonna, that gives us 3.5 weeks to really, we have a lot to get done to make this happen.
Do we have to set the parameters as well by then, or just appoint 5
No,
people?
we need to set the at the next meeting, we are going to name, this is what name the members, we are gonna provide our kind of scope, areas of interest. The town will have improvements, I guess, that they're able to recommend. And that's what we're going to give to this commission to kick them off. Then they will meet, I'm just kind of paraphrasing what Bob said and what this says. They will have to meet, set up a meeting, there will be town resources required, so it's not like they will have town resources for research and meeting schedule and things like that. Bob will be part of the thing, and then once they meet with some substantial nature, they have to set a public hearing for the public. within 30 days of their first meeting or something like that, correct?
Well, there's no set time. It says the
Yeah.
first public hearing has to begin before they do any substantive work, and substantive work is in quotation. So they just have their organizational meeting, name their officers, get themselves organized, and at that first organizational meeting, they can set the date for their public hearing before they do any so-called substantive work. So they've got a little time.
Okay. So that was, I forgot where I started with, but that was why I was changing that date.
So just a question, do we have to actually list the date on this resolution, or can we just say no later than 30 days, yada yada yada?
Yeah, well, that's,
you
yeah.
can say no later than
Why don't we
30.
just say that?
Okay, you didn't like the 10/23/2024?
You know, honestly, I just feel like it's a date on there and then it doesn't mean anything, and then my preference honestly would
Okay.
be that we just say what we have to do and that's what we're gonna do.
Within 30 days, okay, do
Quick
we,
question, Wendy, on here, the last one, it says by October 15th.
that's wrong too, I was gonna point that out.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's also up for discussion. So first of all, the right now it states 9 members. We had discussed 7, I mean, I talked to Bob. 7, that would do like a little bit of minority party would be needed, but it seemed better after talking to Bob to do the 9 as a starting point, because then it's easier to get a quorum with 9. I did ask Bob if we have trouble getting 9 people, we can modify that when we come back with the panel. Is that true, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, from past experience, if you have 9, typically the commission meets every 2 weeks, and it's sometimes hard to get all 9 people there. And the quorum of 9 is 5, a quorum of 7 is 4. And it just seems like everybody's busy these days, you can't make every meeting, and 9 members gives them more of a chance of getting a quorum for every meeting. At least that's the way it's worked in the past.
Okay, so should we?
But to answer your question, Wendy, if you can't get 9, you have to get at least 5. So 7 works just fine.
So should we say 5 to 9 members, or should we just?
Well, you could say up to 9 members and leave it open.
Does that sound, because it just gives us a little more flexibility if we run into issues. Comprised of up to 9 members.
So I know I'm jumping ahead, but just looking at timeline wise, if we initiate it today, we have to have the appointment by the 23rd of October.
30 days.
Right, so but we're hoping on the 16th of October potentially, right? But if you jump ahead to submission, if we appoint in October, according to those 30 days, their 16 months, no later than 16 months from appointment would then be February of 2026.
Okay, or sooner.
Correct? Right, but that's the by date, like that's the no later than that date. Okay.
Correct.
Just trying to understand like the whole large scope timeline.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving points here too, because we talked about the timeline that we give the charter commission. If we're making changes to anything that impacts the municipal election, it's kind of a squeeze to get it done for 2025, so we talked about potentially you could have it that piece of it effective in 27 if it's going to come after everybody's running for office.
Right.
Right, cause that is a concern, cause they.
Yeah, you can, the commission can set different effective dates for different sections as well. If they were to change the elective offices, they could make that effective not in the 25 municipal election, but the 27 municipal election. You're not tied into one effective date for the whole document.
Okay.
Can I ask, why do we need to resolve in this how many members we're going to have without seeing who has submitted interest? I mean, can't we just keep it at its, with the idea that we would like 9, but is this binding that that's what we need, or can we just keep it and up to?
Well, it's a resolution, I suppose we could modify it if we needed to.
You said we could modify it, what would you like it to say? I don't think we want 15.
I think not less than
Not less than
5 and no more than 12.
5 to 9, let's just,
I would say not less than 5 and no more than 12.
12. I don't,
I
12
wouldn't
is
no
much.
more
mind
than.
12.
I'm saying no more than 12, because just like
We're
what
shooting for
Heather
9.
alluded to, we don't know who's applied or has interest and all that, and so I'm just offering an opportunity for this board to consider, qualified candidates who could contribute to the process.
Yeah,
In the restaurant, there's a rule,
Concern.
too many cooks
Yeah.
spoil the broth.
Sure.
And for that reason, I would
yet there's
want
6
a
of us.
stopgap. And therein lies my proof.
well, let me just ask, I believe there were 9 on the last commission, that's why we're focusing on 9 too. Did we have 9, Bob? I think you had mentioned that.
Yeah, that's my recollection.
So what happens if we have candidates and it's just that 10th, we, really between the two and really want the 10th, we just have to change this?
Well, alright.
I guess I'm just curious.
I just don't wanna get
I'm not
into-
gonna-
It's like 3-3-3, so.
Yeah, that's what we
could
were
have
saying.
10.
I guess we could say it and we're, because this is the work that we're gonna have to do, which is the hard stuff, is to figure out the impaneling this group and doing it fairly, right?
Mhm.
And doing the numbers correctly. And if we say 12, then we're gonna get into, I guess whatever we say, I really need this person, and start tweaking it and adding. So I was thinking, like, if we had an upper limit, then the upper limit
I
is
like
a
the upper
good.
limit too, just for the goodwill of the townspeople. If we're allowed to have 12 and then we choose 9,
That's
you know there's
insulting.
gonna be some people that are gonna be like, why couldn't you add me? You had room.
That's fair, and just to be clear, we could have 12, we're talking about it right now. We're deciding not to, so that's okay, I'm okay with the 9 as well,
Okay.
for the suggestion, but I understand your point, but the point is, we could have 12,
We could.
deciding it.
We could have
But I-
14, we could have 15,
We could have
just no more
15.
than 15.
So,
Alright,
that's the thought.
so let's go with 9. Let's just say 9 for now.
Information, you can cover the whole gamut and do not less than 5 or then not up to 15, Bob,
But I
respectfully.
think, why don't we
Yeah.
just,
It's going the wrong way,
let's just say
Christine.
9
We can
and
just
then
say
we
up
can,
to 9.
we'll,
Yeah, up to 9.
up to, it has to be 5 to 9.
Not less than 5 and no more than 9.
Okay, if you like those words,
I
I like
love those
I like the
words.
5
Love
to
it.
9,
Consensus.
5-9, but that's okay. Alright.
5 minus 9 is
So the other question that we had here was the town tomorrow is putting out their website to start pulling in people, resumes, whatever. And this says a date of 10/15. Now, 10/15, if we are gonna shoot for the 16th by some chance, that's the night before and we will not have time to look at people. So we could either do it 10/11, right, and give a 2-week deadline for people to get their names in, and then that gives us time. What are you thinking, Mr. Nelson? You had any comments on that?
No, this is where the rubber meets the road, cause you don't, 2 weeks isn't a lot of time.
I know.
Right, and you guys don't have a lot of time.
So it seems like we might wanna just plan on a special meeting after this, have the 16th to maybe meet to discuss the applications that we've gotten, and then, I don't know, I'm looking for ideas on this one.
That 16th meeting is so packed.
I know.
I'm reticent to add anything
So
to
a
it.
special
Right,
meeting
can add a
for the
special meeting on the
board to
21st.
We don't have to schedule that now, but we need to just, if we need to keep this date in here,
But we need to have it before the 23rd, so.
yeah,
We
do we
need to-
need to,
There's another way to look at this. The 30-day clock starts when you pass this resolution. If you wanted to, you could table this resolution, see what's out there, get a sense of how long it's gonna take to turn around the membership, and then pass this resolution and the second resolution simultaneously. It's at the same meeting. Nothing that says you have to pass these 2 resolutions at 2 different meetings. So if you're concerned about getting all this done in 30 days, you start the 30-day clock by passing this resolution. If you table it and don't pass it tonight, then you could pass this one on the 16th, and that would give you 30 days from the 16th. If you get a sense that it's gonna take you longer than you thought. If it doesn't take you longer than you thought, then you could pass this one and the second one both on the 16th.
Bob, is it 2/3 of the membership present or 2/3 of the board?
2/3 of the entire membership.
I won't be here on the 16th. I'm sure it'll pass, but I'm just.
good meeting to leave. No, I'm
Did
kidding.
you say you're not here on the 16th?
That's right.
So,
I'll have all the room here, look at this.
So that's you didn't mention that to me as an option before of tabling this. I mean,
That's cause I just thought of it.
So if we table it though, we're still having to
Nobody's
wait to
gonna
put
apply.
out.
Well, we still wanna put out the application and then we're putting out an application for a commission that may or may not exist. So we kind of have to vote tonight, don't we?
No, I
No.
think that you can solicit interest in those willing to serve on a charter revision committee that may be formed, by the end of the fiscal year or something like that. I think that's fair. I do have a question about process though. I don't wanna derail that part of the conversation. We already ask volunteers to submit through the town clerk's office, and this references the town manager. Mark may manage this process for us, but it seems like it makes sense just to give the town clerk the ability to collect these applications. That's where they go currently.
Well, we were thinking in terms of EDC, it's more like an EDC commission where
Yeah, but they check the box.
do
and
they
it
go
goes to
into
her.
the town clerk's office though,
Pretty sure.
the applications?
We were gonna create a new email for charter
Yeah, we were
review
gonna have a
so that
separate mailbox for the,
members of the public could write the commission, suggestions and ideas and so forth.
cause we
So-
need more than what the town clerk's checkboxes say. We really are gonna ask for more information to support people's applications. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
I don't know if others agree that they wanted to go through the town clerk's office. What is that? I guess,
They stamp it.
okay.
It also takes the burden off of this team.
But will they?
5 minutes before noon, somebody submits a Zoom request and, Franklin's picking up Mark's coffee and it's,
Yeah. Okay, wait. Let's go back to the discussion here, cause I'm having this as an open discussion. I will say, I originally was not gonna support the charter revision, but I'm supporting it based on everybody's desire to do it. And I just feel like it's gonna be a lot of work for us in the next month and a half or 2 months to get this done, so everybody needs to be on board for that. And it's gonna require town resources and take focus away from other things. But I'm being a team player here, and I think it's, we have a good group to get a group going. So I forgot where I was going with that question. I was just talking for no reason. Let's get back to the resolution, right? We were talking about the application process. Do we wanna table this to the 16th and then put out the potential for a charter revision commission to give us that extra 30 days? What do people think off, on the side? I mean, I was ready,
Just do it.
I would
I was
rather
ready to
do
just do it too.
I don't wanna keep prolonging this because I understand the point and if we have those concerns, but I don't wanna drag it out.
We're doing it or we're not doing it. That's how you got me here. I might change my mind in
Let's
a
do it.
month. So,
Kevin?
I'm in full agreement, and I'll just say that one of the reasons why I think that there are probably people who are highly qualified and
Mhm.
we'd be proud to have serve on this and not to belittle the average citizen participation, but this isn't a man on the street kinda, commission. There's a lot of
I know,
nuance
it's
and
not.
wonkiness and details and stuff, so I think that the person who's interested is probably aware that we're discussing this.
Okay.
And they'll be able to submit their applications within the 30 days that we talk about tonight, so I'm okay with it.
Well, it won't be the 30 days
It'll
because
be
we
like
have
2
to be
weeks.
in the 30 days. It will be 2 to 3 weeks. So we have a date
I
here.
don't know, but somebody who is qualified and interested could turn around and get an application in within 2 weeks, I mean.
It's gonna be up to people to
And you can still swap people out, right?
What do you
If
mean?
someone decides they
no,
don't wanna do it anymore?
no,
No.
you're on,
Oh,
you're
they're
in,
locked in for
you're
16
in,
months?
That's it.
you're in,
Nope.
because that's not gonna be
Scarlet
advantageous.
letter, buddy.
Wow.
So how does it work? We receive our the application
We're gonna have
after
to,
2 weeks. What is our process going to be to review them? Are we all reviewing them together? Will they be emailed to each of us and then we have a special meeting on it, or we do it at our next Board of Selectmen meeting?
any, all of the above or any of the above. It's going to be a board decision that we're gonna have to I think that's the next step, and that's why I'm saying we're all gonna have to participate in the discussions on that.
Is it appropriate to consider all of the candidates within executive session and then vote on them in public? Or do we have to have the discussion about all of them in public?
That's a good question.
There's no basis for executive session for this. What you could do is you could assign each interested person a number. It's all, the documents would be public, but I think the concern is you wouldn't wanna talk about the merits of one candidate versus another in open session and
Correct.
you could do it by number, I think candidate one has superior, credentials than candidate four or something like that. Understanding that whatever documents are submitted are public documents, but at least in the open session, you wouldn't have to have a candid discussion about individuals' merits, one versus the other.
So we could,
I think obscuring what we're talking about too isn't in what open meeting is about. So I think that it's a creative solution, but I don't know that it would necessarily give us what we need.
okay, so and as if needed at special meetings, we will schedule special meeting here or there to either do a workshop, or if we need to do a post, if we don't have time for the 16th, we will do a but we kind of would like you there, Kevin, for the 16th, but I'm hoping that we'll have had discussions.
Sorry, I'll be in Petaluma drinking wine.
Oh, nice. Oh, jeepers.
When are you coming back?
Oh, okay, and let's just go
So
home.
you're away on the 19th,
So I think we're ready to vote with those changes that we mentioned, and should we put in, instead of the October 15th date because of that, should we change it to the 11th? Is that enough time? That was the concern, or do we make it?
It's over 2 weeks, I mean, it'd be 2 weeks this Friday, would be the 11th.
Okay, but or the 15th, and then we figure out what we're doing the night of the 15th for the 16th, because if we had a special meeting, it would be after the 16th. So what do people think?
I think honestly, if you're gonna keep it at the 15th, then we set a special
Plan a
meeting now,
special meeting?
the 21st, or
Well, we wanna
I
make,
could do a special meeting on a date that's not the 16th.
yeah, okay. Does that,
Virtually probably, but yes.
how does that sound to you, Mark, to give an extra, cause you had the 15th on here, but we were,
Bob, do we need a quorum in person or can we make that special meeting all virtual?
Yeah, it can be virtual.
I'd be fine with that, Chair, but
On a day other than the 16th, I could do it virtually.
okay, but the 15th, you think that's better than the 11th, which is 2 weeks from tonight? That's the decision, it's actually, it's not that big of a deal, it's Columbus Day weekend, so nobody's gonna wanna, so I think the 11th is good, I think that would be a
Yeah.
good.
because
Okay.
again, it's a little over.
Cause it's,
some-
I look,
2
I already
weeks and
checked the
4 days.
calendar, it's already a holiday weekend, we're already
Yeah.
pushed our meeting out, maybe we just change our meeting to the never mind. Okay,
What's Yom Kippur?
it's
That's
Yom
on the
Kippur's the
12th.
12th, so it's not, there's no problem there.
I wasn't sure if that
I'm
was
not
a
fasting
sundown
though.
thing.
It is, but I will not be fasting. Okay, so gonna move effective September 23rd, 2024 at 9:09, so we have till 9:09 on the 23rd. To approve the resolution with the amendments, the changes to the date that we have to meet by the 23rd. I think, is that what you said? Or in 30 days. And that we're gonna just go with 9 members.
Not
And then-
less than 5 and not more
No,
than
we
9.
said we're gonna go with 9, I thought.
But not less
I
than,
thought it was
has to be not
5 to
less
9.
than.
Not less than 5,
I thought we
to
said
9.
9, I thought we ended up with the 9.
I think Bob's concern was that if you couldn't get 9, you'd run afoul of you must have 5. So if you limit
Okay.
yourself to 9.
Up to
I
9,
would recommend not less than 5 nor more than 9.
Okay.
Give yourself a little flexibility.
perfect. And then before 10/11/2024 at midnight,
Can we say close the business,
close of business.
just so there's no
which
confusion?
is 5 p.m.
You're gonna get some people that submitted a day late, and a day late is a day late.
Yeah, we've had issues like that before, so, okay, so did I say the motion? I did.
So
You did.
moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? Just want you to know that I'm gonna vote yes after I said I wasn't gonna vote no. Team player. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes, so
I think statute kind of requires us to do this on, so
the what?
every 10 years or something.
7.
we have to do it, so, or
And
whatever, yeah.
it was done, all we had to do was decide to do it. Okay, we're not done yet.
But Kevin made
Yeah,
a
it's like
motion
I'm
to adjourn.
You
Are we
can't.
done with Bob?
We have the minutes. Oh, Bob, we're done.
Thank you,
We'll be in
Bob.
touch.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob, thank you.
You bet, thank you, good to see you all.
You too. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of September 9th special meeting.
And Chair, did you have any amendments?
To what?
Minutes?
No.
So moved.
Second, anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ask for a motion effective or whatever for the September 9th regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion items? Kevin, you don't have any because you put your stuff away. All those in
No
favor
commentary.
say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye. Thank you guys. That was a tough one.